Obrigada. Okay, so we're going to bring it on in. I hope you all had a nice lunch. So I always like to say the presentation after lunch is second hardest. I do think before lunch is the hardest. But after lunch, we're fighting the digestive sleepies. So hopefully, but we have a really interesting second half, which is near and dear to me. My name is Genesis Garcia. I'm the program specialist for SIPN, Study in Portugal Network here under FLAD. I joke around and say program specialist says nothing about what I do. You could not possibly know what I do unless I explained it to you. But I am the main student affairs and alumni relations person here through SIPN, and the topic of service learning is extremely important to me because my bread and butter and why I got interested in international education has everything to do with intercultural competence. So when we abroad, how does abroad change us, but also what impact can we leave when we go? And I think that's an increasingly important question to be answering, especially as the world is changing and things such as over-tourism amongst other issues. And when we have the privilege to choose to travel abroad, even for education, I think these questions about what are we doing with our time there is really important. And I think service learning is one of those things that can be integrated into all educational programs, but certainly ones abroad, to make sure that when we travel and when we are studying abroad or in communities, making sure that the impact is mutual. So not just for the student going abroad, but also for the community that the student is traveling to. So I'm really excited to hear from the four of you. And I'll stop talking now. So first up, we have Luisa Mota Ribeiro, the assistant professor at Universidade Católica Portuguesa in the Faculty of Education and Psychology, coordinator of First Service Learning. So it's lovely that there is an area for that exactly at UCP Porto. And so she's going to be presenting on service learning at UCP, a journey from institutional commitment to global partnership. So thank you very much, Luisa. Okay. You may start if you'd like.
Can I go there?
Yes, you can go there.
Good afternoon. I think you can hear me, right? So thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and to share our project on service learning that we've been working this project for the last 5 years. So I would like to reflect a little bit with you about our journey in this project that began with some mobilization of our teachers and of our unit for the integral development of the person, and with also the institutional commitment, and now we are giving steps to this global partnership that we are looking for. So I think, yeah. So I will start just a few minutes to clarify what is service learning, because I believe not everyone is connected to this concept. So I'm using the definition that we can find in the European Observatory of Service Learning in Higher Education website. So it's an experiential educational method. So it's a pedagogy that we can use. Here I'm focusing on higher education, but we can apply it in other levels of education, such as primary education or secondary education, for example. In this method, students engage in community service. They reflect critically, and this is very important, the reflection component. It's very important so that we can consider it service learning. And students learn from it not only in an academic dimension, but also in a personal and social dimension. So the activities address real needs. So we can talk about social needs, for example, or human needs, environmental needs. And we work on that experience and reflect about that experience in the perspective of social justice and sustainable development. Fostering civic responsibility and strengthening communities. So, and we, in this case, the European Observatory and other references that we have in service learning defend the idea that this must be recognized with credits. So we are talking about students going to the field, working with real people, with people that encounter in a vulnerable situation, evaluating real needs, and developing a project to address that needs, right, with supervision of the teachers in the classroom. And working in partnership with an institution, with an organization. So this implies building a trusting relationship with the community and working together. So students and teachers and the community all become teaching resources. That's the idea. All become problem solvers and partners. And the partnership should be horizontal. And many times this doesn't happen, right? It's not horizontal, it's not totally reciprocal. But this is the idea of service learning. I would say also, if we can, to clarify this concept, some criteria that we can use to consider service learning a good experience of service learning. So integrates meaningful service and meets real needs, as I was talking about. So the service is linked to the curriculum. This is very important also because we can see we have the service and we have learning. So we need to have both dimensions implemented. Reflection is part of the learning process. So we are talking about experiential education. We have action, but we have also reflection, right? And community organizations are valued as partners in that horizontal relationship. So we need to unlearn some ways of connecting with society, with the other partners. We need to unlearn some assistantialist approaches, for example, to the community. And in this case, number 5, students have a strong voice because it's supposed that students participate since the beginning of the project, since the diagnosis of the issues in that community, the planification process, the implementation of the project, the evaluation of the project, and then the dissemination of the project. So students should participate in all the stages of the project. And at least, just to clarify what we consider service learning. So in this case, we have these 2 dimensions, service and learning. So we can see in the right, in the top right of this figure, service learning, because we have both dimensions that are implemented and intentionalized. But for example, how can we distinguish service learning from voluntarism, for example? So if we have a high presence of service, but with no learning formalized, because we can see in the left part, in the top, we could have voluntarism. So we know that students learn a lot when they do voluntarism, right? We know, we all agree they develop, they learn. But if there is no learning formalized, we can't consider service learning. So, as in the right, in the bottom, imagine an internship. They do a lot of, they learn a lot. But if the service component is not defined, so there are no community service goals. Okay, this is very important. This is applied learning, but it's not service learning. And in the last case, in the bottom in the left, we have, for example, some initiatives that are no continuous in time. So, for example, students go collect, for example, some, sometimes the words don't come, I'm sorry. Imagine they participate in a campaign to collect some goods to share with vulnerable people, and this is only one day. So this is not service learning. This is not. Can be an occasional experience. So I believe I hope I'm clear about this, because sometimes it's difficult to distinguish and to, so imagine that we have a volunteerism program in our university and we want to transform it in service learning. We can do it, okay, but we need to formalize the dimension of learning and to connect that experience with learning objectives. What are they learning? What are the learning outcomes that we intend to achieve with this experience? Okay, so in our university, in Catholic University in Portugal, we had our strategic development plan from 21 to 25. We included service learning as a strategic initiative of our quality plan. So our plan has social responsibility and sustainability as main drivers of our plan. And service learning is a strategic initiative, and we defined these aims of provide at least 2 subjects, 2 courses in undergraduate and 1 subject in our masters. So we are working on this. We haven't achieved this in all the schools, all the faculties, but we are working on this. And we had a project that I will share a little bit since 2020, January, even right before the pandemic starts, and we finished formally this project last month. I would highlight this. I'm Luisa, and I'm coordinating this project with Carmo, and I would highlight this because I'm a teacher. I work in the Faculty of Education and Psychology, and Carmo is my colleague. She works with volunteerism and in this unit. So we recommend this internal partnership, because in some universities we see that there is some teacher, researcher, that some academic that do this work, and in other universities we see the person responsible for volunteerism. And in our case, we did a co-coordination, and we think that this is a very good practice, because Carmo works a lot with community partners, and I work with research, for example, and with pedagogical methodology. So it's a very good internal partnership that I would like to highlight. So in our 4 campuses, in our university, we implemented this project, and we wanted to implement and disseminate the service learning in our university and also in other higher education institutions. And we defined these 5 big activities. So to create a project coordination and a planning team, to design, implement, and evaluate service learning projects, also to institutionalize, as we saw in our strategic development program, also carry out research, and also disseminate to other higher education institutions. So we created a national team with our vice rector and with at least 2 people from each campus that has this function of leading, motivating, supporting. And we have in our team in Porto, we have more people because we are coordinating this program. And we have also a colleague from the quality system. And then we have 2 human resources, 2 people that work supporting our work of institutionalizing service learning. So we have a big team. In our project, we defined 3 modalities of service learning. So a more typical modality, integrating service learning in the regular courses of service learning. I am very much disappointed because I'm not using my micro in this. I'm sorry, just I was so expecting to use this micro, but I can see that the micro that is working is this one. I hope you can hear me well. So the first one in the regular courses and also in some extracurricular activities. The second one creating some transdisciplinary courses and projects, joining teachers and students from different areas. And the third one, the international and interdisciplinary service learning experience. So I bring here some images. We can see here students. This was a project with students from psychology and nursing working together. So in a transdisciplinary course that we created specifically in this project, in our national project, we had students from nursing, psychology, and law working together with a team of teachers working together. And this was a project with elder people about the like being thirst of companionship. So like the importance of hydrating, of drinking water, but also of nurturing being with other people. So we had students of nursing that identified, oh, they don't drink enough water, and that affects the functioning of the body. And psychology students thinking about behaviors and about meaning. Why do they don't drink enough water? What do they associate to drinking water? What are the discomfort that can come with drinking more water? So they work together to understand and to implement a plan that could contribute to drink more water. In this case, we have a psychology student working with the students in the kindergarten, with children in the kindergarten in the community. In this case, in the left photo, we had a project in the hospital, so helping the patients to go to the right place in a very big hospital in Porto. And in the right side, we have a project that was developed in a prison with people that were incarcerated. And the name of the project was The Freedom of the Talents, because our students work with painting and to express, and it was very interesting to see how some people that were incarcerated did some things for the first time with our students. It was very, very impactful. And the last one, it's about nutrition, about community nutrition. So in a residential home, residential care center, contributing to a better nutrition, better choice, eating. So these are some examples, and they were also sharing the projects in our university. So to share with you some results and some impacts that we can see. So we had, in the last 7 semesters of implementation of our project, we had 113 service learning experiences. We can see some of them, the most of them, in our courses, in our regular courses, but also some extracurricular activities, some transdisciplinary projects, as I was saying, for example, this with nursing and psychology and law. We involved 2,263 students and 62 teachers, and almost 166 partners, some of them foreigners in other countries, and we estimate a total of 44,000 final beneficiaries. So here I would like to share one reflection, because we can see from our 17 faculties, we involved until now 12 of them. And if we can see that when we do the analysis of how many times the service learning projects were implemented during these 7 semesters, we can see that only one of the projects was implemented all the 7 semesters. So it's being always implemented. And then 5 projects had 6 implementation, 2 projects, 5 implementation phases, and we can see that 26 projects were implemented only once. This is worrying for us. Why are teachers implementing once and they don't continue implementing service learning? What is happening? So they drop out. So this is, we are doing that, approaching to our teachers to understand, but we know that is related to the workload, to the lack of recognition, So we understand that some of the factors, and we are working on that. So we are also always integrated in a global partnership in a project that is called Uniservitate. We are in the second phase of this program. It's a network of Catholic universities in the world. And they selected 20 universities in the beginning, and we were one of the 20 universities to integrate this global network, and now we are near 40 universities that are integrated in these regions, and this is with the support of CLAIS, that is the Latin American Center for Service Learning, and with funding from Portuguesas, that we can see there. And so we receive technical assistance, we receive training, we monitoring and evaluation, and we have lots of partnerships, and we share a lot. We have meetings, regional meetings, global meetings, so that we can learn about implementing and institutionalizing service learning. We have also projects of research projects. We are, for example, examining university students' perceptions of their community right before and after implementing service learning. We are doing it with drawings, and the results are very interesting. So we ask the students to draw how do they see their community with a drawing, and then we ask them later after the service learning experience. And we can find, for example, that in the first drawing, students represent community based mainly on their individual perceptions. And in the second drawing, they have a more global view of the community, for example. We are now analyzing the data, so we will share later in other moments our results. And we are also working on interdisciplinary service learning and trying to understand what are the difficulties that teachers feel that hinder to implement interdisciplinary service. We have some research outputs about some experience that we have developed. I will highlight this about purpose in life. In our studies, 70% of the students say they change their purpose in life with the participation in service learning in one semester. We know that we are talking about their perception, but 70%. So it's impactful for them because they connect with people in real situation, in vulnerability. They reflect about them. We know that this has an impact in their self-knowledge. They feel much more confident. I'm sharing with you the discourse many times they use. So they say, oh, I feel more confident about myself. I discover that I am a leader, for example. I remembering some students saying that. They feel useful for the community, and they transform not only the view about themselves, but the view about the connection with the other. So they feel more connected with the community, and it's very, very interesting to see that transformation happening. So I will advance. We had some prizes in the last 3 years. We had some experiences that were distinguished as a good practice. We had an honorable mention 2 years ago. Last year we had the Laura Rubio Award in a conference in Spain, and we had recently the first prize of the Uniservitate Award with a project related to helping elder people in a residential care home. So we feel many challenges in this project. I can highlight some of them. We need to improve the quality of our service learning experiences. For example, the quality of the reflection. It's a big challenge. Our teachers say, but how can I do reflection? I don't know how to do that, or I don't have time to do that, because the curriculum is so vast, I can't do that. So we need to go on giving training about this and sharing resources and methodologies that they can apply in their classes to promote the reflection about the experiences, the recognition of teachers. We are working with our vice rector in this moment about this. This is very important. When we know with the contact with the partners in other countries, we know many ways of doing this in time, with money, with people that can help. There are many ways in the evaluation of the teachers, for example. Recognizing this an innovative way of teaching. So we are working on this because we need to recruit new teachers and we need to maintain the teachers that already implemented, as I was saying some minutes ago, so that the methodology can be sustainable in our university. And to finish, now we have this project in our European Alliance, Transform for Europe. So we started 1 year ago. And we in our project we have a task specifically. Task 8.5, this is our number, and we aim to develop a T4U lifelong learning center and also to promote curricular service learning. So I will focus now on the second one because it's the theme of our session today. So we want to develop curricular service learning and to have some partnership with joint courses in different countries. Applying service learning. Let's imagine that I am teaching psychology. I talk more about psychology because it's my area, but it could be another area. So imagine I am implementing service learning in a psychology course in my university, and I have a partner, for example, in Spain, that is implementing also a course of psychology. They are doing their work in their communities, and for example, we have regular meetings for reflection, and that reflection happens in joint moments, for example. It can be very rich to do that reflection. So we are working on this. We have, I can highlight the number 4, 8.5.4. So we define a group of experts in service learning. We are finished now this month the service learning guidelines to share with all the partners. We are doing our service learning workshops. Our first one will be next week in Porto, and we are working on the service learning curricular cooperation, as I was saying. So we are now in a phase of knowing each other and knowing who are the partners that have experience implementing service learning, clarifying what is service learning, because we could find in our case that we were doing service learning, but we didn't call that. So maybe it's the case of other people here that we are implementing something similar to service learning, but we don't formalize this method. We don't call it like that. So. So we are. I talked about this and about the internationalization. I would like to share with you that about our international service learning experience that we had planned in that 3 kinds of modalities of service learning. In our project, we had funding to do an international experience of service learning. Some authors say that it's the most impactful service learning experience in terms of the competence developed and intercultural competence, as we were talking about. So some authors say that international service learning, going abroad to do service learning, to work in a community, to reflect about that, it's the most impactful for the student. But we decided not to do it in our case because we didn't have enough money to do a long experience. The student would go there for 1 week or 2 weeks, and we we reflect about that, and we felt that it was not sustainable, and it was lots of money. We were spending lots of money to be there just a week. So the transformation in the community would be short. So in that case, we decided not to do it. What are we doing? We have some volunteerism experiences that are international, and we are including the components of service learning in that experience that we are already doing. So we are incorporating the reflection component, as we had already the action component of being in a different country, working in a disadvantaged community, in the vulnerable community. So we are redesigning the experience, the international experiences that we already have, to incorporate the criteria and the dimensions that are very important to do, to have service learning. So we are in that way of making it in a more sustainable way, in our opinion. So we are in the next 3 years, we will have, we believe, different experiences of collaborating internationally, also in service learning. So if anyone would like to have more information or do some partnership, I share in the beginning my email, and so I think it was, it's there. So thank you so much for listening to me, and if you have any questions later, I can answer. And thank you for understanding my English.
Louisa, thank you very much. There's a lot of really great work that you're doing, so thank you for that. All right, next we have our representative from the other side of the Atlantic, Robert Glover from the University of Maine, coordinator and professor of public policy and community engagement, and he will be presenting on service learning research partnership to drive evidence-based public policy.
All right, hello everybody. First, I want to thank Louisa for such a great definition and conceptual overview of service learning and doing a lot of the heavy lifting that I was prepared to do. So it's always great when somebody does a really great job. So my name is Rob Glover. I'm a professor of political science at the University of Maine. This image, I don't know how well you can see it, but actually, my route to some of the work that we're doing here in Portugal, it's kind of this circuitous route that involves being an undergraduate, taking courses with Michael Baum about, a lifetime ago. And then eventually getting really interested in some different public policy issues that were impacting us in Maine, and seeking in Portugal a model of a different policy approach that has been the springboard to a very successful study abroad that we ran for the first time last summer, and actually are planning to run again annually as long as there is student interest, and I have a feeling there will be student interest. So this is University of Maine students visiting a safe consumption site in Lisbon as part of the broader decriminalization and harm reduction and public health oriented approach to drug policy here in Portugal. And we run a study abroad where we try to show students that there are alternative ways to address, in our case, the opioid crisis and the overdose crisis. So that work really got its start doing some service learning oriented policy collaborations with the recovery community and the community of people who use drugs in the state of Maine, and then generated this kind of interest both among the researchers and the professors, but also among our students. So I'll give you a quick overview of what we'll talk about. I'm going to give you just a little bit of context on the University of Maine so that you know where I'm coming from and understand a little bit about our university. I'll talk just briefly about the work that we're doing with regard to community engagement and service learning. Some of the same basic principles that Louisa talked about, but a different approach in that we're focused more on kind of policy research. And so we do a lot of work with elected officials and state agencies and policy advocacy organizations that address some of the same issues, but the target is not necessarily direct service. The target is changing the policies that drive some of these issues. Then I'll talk about something called Engaged Policy Studies, which has been an initiative that we're running at the University of Maine. Some initiatives, some different things that we're doing, some successes, and some of the lessons learned. And I'll close just by kind of giving some thoughts about internationalization and ways that the work that we're doing right now could be expanded, and we could start thinking about collaboration across national boundaries, because one of the things that I keep hearing as I hear folks discuss different issues facing Portuguese higher education or facing Portuguese society is that so many of those issues we're facing in the United States, particularly in my home state of Maine. The demographic cliff there is, in some ways, we've already crossed we've already fallen over the edge of the demographic cliff. It's the oldest state in the United States. The median age in my home state is about 45 years old, which 45-year-olds are not having children. And the demographic kind of distribution of ages within the state is so lopsided. So there is this huge question of like, what does the future of our state and our community look like when we have these kind of uneven distributions of ages? So a little bit about the University of Maine. We're centrally located in the state of Maine, which is way up in the northeastern quarter of the United States. So it's very easy for us to start driving and end up actually in Canada. So we do have, there's a 7 University of Maine system. The University of Maine is the largest of those 7 campuses, and it's what we call the flagship institution. It's where the core of the research is happening. It's the largest institution. We have just over 12,000 students, and we're actually, enrollment is climbing again. It was down for a few years. We're also what's called a land grant institution. So land grant institutions, around the same time that Lehigh was created, there was a push by the national government to invest in areas that really needed teaching and agricultural education. And so they basically kind of granted land and some initial support to these universities. And as a result of that, and this was back in 1865, this is quite a long time ago, but as a result of that, these universities have built into their mission expectations of public service, expectations of serving the community, addressing the needs and challenges of the communities in which they're placed. So in addition to that, we're also what's called a Sea Grant institution. This came along a little bit later, but same sort of thing. We get some funding from the federal government. The expectation is that we're addressing issues related to marine life and lake systems and things like that. So public mission is built into the origins of our university. We're a Carnegie R1 institution. We recently were designated an R1 institution. It just means that we're an institution that is kind of among the top tier of research universities in the United States, designated by things like our number of doctoral programs, the number of PhDs we graduate, the amount of funding that we bring in for research. And that's an area where the University of Maine has been very successful over the last few years. You see in 2024, over $200 million in external grants coming in, a lot of it to fund research in STEM, but not entirely in STEM. So our student population, this is one of the things that drew me to the University of Maine. I'm a first-generation college student, so neither of my parents went to college. And that's very much the population that we serve. It's a lot of students who come from Maine. Maine is their home state. Many of them live in rural areas. You see our numbers there. About half of our students are from rural communities. And when we say rural in the state of Maine, we mean really rural. You go to the western part of the state, and there's just trees. And where are the people? Where are the roads? So an extremely rural state, the most forested state in the entire United States. Lots of students who college is a means to social mobility for them. It's a financial reach for them and their families. They're relying upon financial aid. They're taking on debt. And 30% of students are considered low income, which I think the designation there is something called the Pell Grant, where students fall below a certain income threshold. And you see the vast majority of our students are first-generation students as well. So that's a little bit about kind of our profile. I'll also just reiterate, similar to some of the things that you heard earlier, These expectations of community engagement, serving the public, orienting our research and our teaching mission towards public and community concerns, that has been built both into the founding of our university, but also into our most recent strategic plan. So you see, this is the strategic vision from 2019, and it really makes central to our mission as a university this expectation of collaboration, collaborating with community partners, advancing the cultural, economic, and civic interests of communities throughout Maine and the world. So as a public flagship university, there's this expectation that we are in fact giving back to the communities in which we reside. So that in some ways explains kind of my origin story at the University of Maine. I was actually hired in 2011, so I've been there for quite some time now. And my position was strange and unconventional. I remember when I was considering whether or not to work at the University of Maine, I reached out to my graduate advisor and he said, I don't know what to make of this position and it scares me a little bit. This is not a traditional faculty position. I worry that you're just gonna get kind of overwhelmed, like they're trying to pull you in every direction. So what was my position? There was the expectation that there was going to be a public orientation in my research and my teaching. So like I should be gearing my research and my teaching towards these public concerns. That I would be involving undergraduate students in my research. So there's a core focus of the University of Maine, even in the first year, that we want to involve students in research in direct collaboration with the mentorship of a faculty member. So that was built into my position from the start. That I would conduct service learning collaboration with community partners. That was an expectation for my position, that like these are the types of courses I would be teaching. And also they wanted me to develop something called, a course in something called Engaged Policy Studies, which sounded so interesting. And I kept saying like, tell me more about this Engaged Policy Studies. Like, what do you have in mind for that? And every time I asked that question, they would respond with a question. They'd say, well, what do you think of when you hear Engaged Policy Studies? And then they gave me, and I would, formulate some sort of answer. Well, it makes me think of this. And they'd say, that sounds great. And then they gave me the position, and I came back the next year and was ready to start. And I asked them that question again, and I got the same answers, or the same questions in response to my questions. And I said, oh, you don't know, right? Like, you don't know what you want in this. This is my child, right? I can develop whatever I want. So that was what I did. And so I'll talk about some of the things that I did with existing courses, and I'll just briefly go through the Engaged Policy Studies course, what that became. But the overarching theme, oftentimes when we talk about academia in the American system, we talk about the tripartite mission of teaching, research, and service. And the idea is that it's some sort of Venn diagram, and at certain points they overlap. And that my position looks nothing like that. And I think many positions in American higher education right now, as we shift towards service learning and community engagement, more and more positions look like this, where it's very, very difficult to disentangle your teaching from your research, from your service and your outreach and your connection to the community. So that's this kind of mushing together, ultimately in very productive and I find invigorating ways, the different aspects of what would be a traditional position. I think that was what my advisor meant when he said, I don't know what, this is a UFO that I'm looking at. I don't know what to make of this position. So one of the first ways, even before I developed kind of the larger service learning course focused on policy research, one of the first ways I started to do this with existing courses that we had a state government class. So obviously the United States is a federal system. In addition to our federal government, we have state governments that have really significant power. So like in the state of Maine, huge aspects of health policy or education policy or criminal justice policy, that gets determined at the state level. And so the states are this really important locus of political power and something worth not only understanding but engaging with. So we had that course, it was kind of a traditional course. I shifted that course to align with our state legislative session, so the instances in which state policy was actually being crafted in our state capital. And basically charged students with identifying pieces of legislation that were active in the state legislative session, researching those, identifying policy coalitions, doing some of the political comms work that you would do if you were involved in an advocacy campaign or you were a citizen lobbyist, and then brought them to the State House and introduced them to lawmakers, introduced them to people that were at the State House also advocating for certain policies. And that has been very successful. That has actually influenced policy, that has created all sorts of networks and pathways for students to have influence on public policy. And I'm also part of a network that has been working on expanding that project. So in 2016, we set out to have a course like this taught in every state in the United States. And we got a grant to fund some of that work. And now it's actually, I think it's like 46 out of 50 states have a course like this. So I think it's like New Mexico and Utah, and there's just only a few left, but we're working on it. So to not only to see that model and see it work really well in Maine, but then develop this incredible nationwide network of colleagues who are doing similar work and watching them do that work in other states, and the benefits for the students and the policy process, I think, is improved as a result of this work. So that's a different sort of service learning. Ultimately, the output is, policy and policy expertise and the voices of students that oftentimes are shut out of the policy process. But that was kind of one inflection of what this approach to engagement would look like. The kind of longer term project, and I think what has been the most challenging, but also like the most rewarding aspect of the service learning work, was this engaged policy studies thing. So I set out to teach, I quickly realized you couldn't do this in a single semester. This would have to be a year-long experience for students. And so for students who participate in this basically replaces their capstone. This is the big culminating research experience at the end of their undergraduate career. And the starting point is students deciding what they think to be the most critical issues within the state. And that's really the first couple weeks is, what are the issues that our communities face, that our state faces, where you want to do some work, you want to try to improve public policy and enrich public policy with evidence in collaboration with a community partner. But we don't get too far in that process. It's just about identifying the issues. And then from there, I work to play matchmaker with a community-based organization or an elected official that they're going to work with over the course of an entire year to research that issue. You see it's broken up into phases here. The first step is kind of articulating the issues that the students care about. But then once we get to the point of defining the question, designing the research, all of that work, Louisa mentioned reciprocity, all of that work is done in collaboration with community partners. We don't start that process without them and then say, hey, we're here to fix your problem. This is how we've defined your problem. That characterizes some of the worst traits in academic research, is when we don't involve the people who are most directly affected before we start researching something. And then the second phase is actually executing the research, collecting the data, whatever the data might be. It requires me to be kind of a methods generalist because we cater what methods they're using to the ways that the problem has been defined, and then crafting actionable policy steps. And in some cases, we even get to the point of the subsequent work of like implementation and thinking about design over the course of a single year. So it's incredibly, incredibly challenging work, but it's very, very cool to do, and it's great to see the students. They work in teams. This is one of my first teams of students from the first year I taught the course. But to see them work collaboratively and go from the point in which they're terrified of this process and they feel just kind of overwhelmed by what I'm suggesting they're going to be able to do by the end of the year, to a point where they're really empowered and they are, they have these connections with community partners. So that's kind of the general overview. What are the types of partnerships that we've worked on? Community partners vary. They vary based on who has capacity to work with us and also what is the nature of the problem that the students define. So we've worked with elected officials, we've worked with local and city policymakers, city planners, or town officials, town managers, things like that. We've worked with all sorts of different nonprofit organizations. We had a year where students were really interested in labor issues, and we actually partnered with a couple labor unions within the state that were doing advocacy work, a range of different policy advocacy organizations. And then sometimes the work that the students are doing actually involves university entities. So there's like university partners that we have to work with in order to do some of that work. The issues that we've worked on, demographic trends, all of the policymakers are very, very concerned about how do we get more young people to stay in the state of Maine? How do we get them to stay in our community? And these are perfect partnerships because the students themselves are representatives of the demographic groups that they want to try to keep in Maine. So they really value the opportunity to work with students for a year, not only to collect some data and do some analysis, but also to hear from them because they are the ones that they are trying to keep within the state. Workforce development and labor issues. Community disruption is very vague. That refers to instances, I live in a big college town, and so instances in which students living alongside long-term residents of the town have created problems that actually become policy issues. And I'm actually very proud of that work because involving the students in conversation with members of the town and community officials has stopped what I think would have been disastrous policies that were misguided. So things like at one point they wanted to have a student housing moratorium in which like students weren't just the existing student housing stock was going to be what existed and there wasn't going to be any way to expand it. And we did research with them to show that actually a lot of the problems that they were getting complaints about were not caused by students, it was caused by landlords or unclear leases, and that freezing the housing stock would actually create a little mini housing crisis that would drive up rents and things like that. Hunger and food insecurity, student labor issues, and where we've done the most work, and I think that's because this overlaps with the research that I've been doing, and it's just such a critical issue in the state of Maine, substance use disorder and our state's overdose crisis related mainly to the use of opioids. Maine has been particularly hard hit by the opioid crisis. In Maine now, it's the rise of synthetic opioids, fentanyl, and our overdose numbers have just exploded. They're starting to kind of plateau now, but in the United States as a whole, we lost over 100,000 people to fatal overdose last year. It is truly a crisis situation, and communities are just kind of stymied. They don't know what to do. What has been hopeful, and this is where a lot of the work that we've done has connected, is that members of the recovery community, people who are in recovery from substance use disorder, or even communities of people who are actively using drugs, have begun to insert their voices into the policy debate and discussion. And so the work that we did over the course of a full year was really connecting with those folks and doing a statewide survey of the recovery community in Maine so that we could go to policymakers and say, these are in fact the people that you want to save, and here's what they're telling us in terms of the policies that they want. So that's an overview of some of the projects that we've done. I'd say accomplishments and impact. The biggest one is relationship building. So every one of those different community partners that I've mentioned now has, hopefully, a trusted relationship with someone at the university. In fact, they probably had several, and they have some students or some alums that they've worked with really closely. Oftentimes when we talk to community partners about issues that they're facing where the university could play some sort of role, particularly our university as a research university could play some role in helping them adjust their organizational mission to fit the needs of the state and the community, or just engage in policy advocacy. They say, we know that the university is this hub for research, but we don't know where to begin. We don't know what is the front door of the university and how do we engage this hub of expertise that's right up the road. So hopefully in these projects, we create kind of a front door and a trusted relationship. It's also about capacity building, especially like some of the organizations doing community-based work, policy advocacy work. They're just understaffed and they're well beyond their capacity for what they can do in terms of staff. So they gain a little mini research team with the ability to systematically analyze some issues. Policy outcomes. There have been a number of instances in which the work that the students are doing actually has a tangible impact on public policy. And that is at every level. Some of it is focused on issues specific to the university. Some of it is things that are happening in towns and communities. In other cases, it's state legislative outcomes. The most wild and surreal experience, there was, when we were doing some of the substance use work, there was a bill that had been kind of a key priority of folks within the recovery community and folks who are trying to address the opioid crisis. And it was a Good Samaritan bill. So if somebody had overdosed and they called the police or they called first responders, that those who were at the scene could not face criminal consequences for any substances or paraphernalia that were found at the scene. And it was told to us that the governor was likely to veto it. And so we had all of this data that we presented to the governor. Well, we actually gave to the advocacy organization that then they presented to the governor. And on the basis of that, she decided not to veto it. And that literally has saved lives in our state. You can quantify the number of lives that have been saved there. So like those are the types of policy outcomes that these students have been able to influence. Lessons learned, I think some of these we've already heard about. Mutuality, right? So how are all of the different actors involved empowered to define the focus and the expectations of the partnership and the relationship? We try to really hold true to that. The first couple weeks, in addition to defining the issues that the students are interested in, are also about sharing power, understanding, that you cannot assume that you know better, and in many cases you often don't know better than the folks that we're working with. So to try and disrupt the hierarchy that often exists between town and gown, between university and community. Reciprocity, so how are all of the actors involved contributing to this relationship and also benefiting from it? And if there's a mismatch in terms of benefit, in terms of the actual outcomes and benefits of the partnership, it probably won't be a sustainable partnership. We can't do this based on goodwill or anything like that. And then diverse forms of knowledge. So like knowledge resides in all sorts of different places, and even those, everybody who's involved in one of these partnerships has important things to contribute, and how do we create a space in which they can? Lastly, in terms of thoughts on internationalization, I think there are tremendous opportunities for collaboration, not just between the United States and Portugal, but really across all sorts of different national boundaries. And as I talk to folks, here in this room, and as I read the news, I realize that a lot of us are facing different kind of inflections of the same sorts of issues. So like all of these issues that I have here, demographic concerns, public health, substance use, wages and costs of living, housing, these big structural shifts in the economy, we could imagine the ways that those impact someplace like Portugal, but they certainly have impacts in Maine as well. And really, just having students and faculty and organizations get together and think about how those same overarching causes play out differently in different national contexts, even just there, like that comparative lens, there's so much to be learned there. And then obviously the next step is to enable collaboration and exchange. I'm really excited about some of the collaborative online international learning, the short time in country, and then you use that as the basis to extend out a partnership that can endure much longer. I think that could be a really neat model. The work that we were doing in Maine related to substance use disorder and opioid and overdose eventually led, as I said, to the creation of this faculty-led study abroad. And I could, now that the partnership has been established, we've run it, we know that there's student interest, we kind of have a template for how to run that course. I could totally imagine this 3-week experience here in Portugal focused on Portugal's approach to the opioid crisis of the 1990s and an alternative drug policy model rooted in public health and harm reduction. That could be the basis for an entire year of work at the University of Maine. Bring students here for that experience, kind of orient them to a different approach, and then set them loose on Maine, where so much of the approach for so long has been focused on criminal justice and punishment and not rooted in public health and harm reduction. And I'll close, the student isn't here, so I'm not embarrassing them, but somewhere her face is turning red and she's embarrassed. But actually the student at the very bottom left, so they're, oh no, I don't know what happened. But that student at the bottom left was one of the participants in our study abroad this summer. She is remarkable. She's a pre-med student. Her focus has been on, she's really kind of into the biomedical research and has those skills and lots of lab skills. And so she, as a result of this study abroad that we had here and learning more about drug policy, went back to the state of Maine and basically said, the system that we have for testing medicinal cannabis is inadequate. It's not testing for this one contaminant that can have negative health effects, and that's particularly a danger when we're dealing with medicinal cannabis. And such a test exists, and it's more cost effective than what the state is doing currently. and wrote this policy brief that was so good, we immediately sent it to the head of our Office of Cannabis Policy that oversees that regulatory system. So that was without mentorship and guidance. That was just a particularly motivated student that had a really good experience here in Portugal and carried it forward of her own accord. And I imagine if we just give students a little bit of structure, give them exposure to a different approach in another place, and then kind of set them loose back home, there could be some really cool opportunities for partnerships. So I'm totally excited to think about possibilities for service learning and internationalization, and I'm happy to chat with folks as we continue throughout the day. But thanks very much.
Rob, thank you so much for that. There's so much to say, but I'm trying to catch up on time that we lost earlier today. So we're going to keep it going. Next, we have Sandra Soares, the Vice Director of the University of Aveiro, Coordinator of the Specialized Internationalization Commission, talking about new shapes of education, higher ed in an evolving world.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me well? So I suppose I don't have to stay behind the mic. So I'm bringing a different perspective, I think, but I also think that it's really aligned with what you have been saying before. And it really dives into one of the main pillars of our strategy at our University of Aveiro here in Portugal. And that is to attract new public to the university. International students, although we have been doing that, but we need to be more aggressive. And also lifelong learners. And I will talk a bit about that and how we try to combine both this attraction of new publics into the same area, into the same strategic goals. So, as most of you know, and this is by the President of the European Commission, but it's all over the world, that people, human capital, are key drivers in society for societal impact, and new skills and competencies, we do need to attack them, and we need to think in education in different formats, especially in higher education. So if we look at the World Economic Forum, then this is the competencies that are important for 2025. And also the employees, the skills and competences that employees, adults need to face the challenges of this fast-pacing world. We do know that we need to change the way we teach, the way the students learn, and also the types of offerings we are offering at universities. So one of the things we know nowadays is that we have people without jobs, and we have jobs without people, and we have those who do not study nor work. And these numbers have been increasing quite a lot lately. And for the universities, at least in Portugal with the demographics descendants, we do need to think about the sustainability of our universities. And what I will be telling you about is what we're doing at an international context in our European Alliance, and also what we are doing at the University of Aveiro to transform the types of offerings and the institutions to be able to put that into a routine, because these days at least, diplomas and degrees are the routine for our institutions, for our professors, for our staff. So, not this one, sorry. So what we do know is that education and universities do play a role in society and need to respond to the needs of society. We also know that Portugal and Europe, and I would say the world, is in need of flexible learning pathways and lifelong learning. And this is something very critical for this economic and social impact we need in the world and in Portugal in particular. So higher education must be about innovation, of course, but making also learning flexible and personalized learning available. And this means that we need to transform the routines we have with external stakeholders, because we usually do it in innovation, research, but we do not have the systematic dialogue we should have with external partners in terms of learning offerings and lifelong learning in particular. So we also facing challenges with these new approaches we are all facing and trying to transform our institutions. We need to work on the quality assurance of these offerings, because we know that degrees and diplomas in Portugal, at least, we have a national agency that accredits and makes sure that the offerings have quality. We do not have such agency or whatever in terms of quality, nor in Europe, nor in Portugal. And we also need to work on the automatic recognition, because the idea is that when we're talking about micro-credentials in particular, which is what I will be talking about, we are talking about ECTSs conveyed, and we're talking about people accumulating competencies and skills for the needs of the market and for their lifelong learning. So we know that traditional degrees have served the society for centuries, but the world has changed, and higher education also needs to adapt to this. And we need to rethink how we develop these skills and competencies, and of course we should do it within traditional degrees, with programs in which we engage students besides being in the lecture room and having a degree. But we also need to work on different types of short-term courses that help the society to really have the adult workforce having the competencies and skills they need to have the social and economic impact. So what we do know is that there is a skills gap, and that's what we're trying to hinder with the micro-credentials movement, for example, in the sense that the competencies after a degree, completing a degree or a diploma, are not the ones that employers, the society needs. So we do need to work on this. And really the European Commission, that's why I brought up Ursula von der Leyen, identifies the key building blocks to make micro-credentials in particular successful. But we still have a lot to work on the common definition of micro-credentials, and the ECIU, the European Consortium of Innovative Universities, the alliance which the University of Aveiro is part of, has contributed to such movement and to such white paper. We need to work on quality assurance. The system is not prepared for this at the moment. We need to work on credits and recognition. We need to work on storage, portability, and platforms, because the idea here is that we focus on the learner, not on the institution that is awarding the diploma or the degree. And this needs to be successfully uptaken. So this is, for those who are not familiar with the concept, this is the concept of micro-credentials, a proof of learning outcomes that a learning has acquired following a short learning experience. And these learning outcomes have to be assessed, of course, against transparent standards. So the first steps for this at University of Aveiro came within an international framework within our European alliance. So we started to work on challenges, because we want micro-credentials to have a societal economic impact. So we started to, together with the external partners, of course, and with all the partners around Europe, to build a portfolio of challenges that came from the needs of the regions of Europe in this case, and these challenges would solve societal challenges. For example, and to be more clear, we started with SDG 11. So we put together people from different scientific fields, from different countries, together with external partners to solve societal challenges. And so teams of diverse learners and researchers were formed. We started during the time of COVID, so it started online. We're now going, besides doing this online as well, we're doing it within the blended intensive programs, which combine the online with the face-to-face, which is really important to create these networks of trust, because this is all about trust. Internationalization is all about people, and it's all about trust. And then the micro-credentials serve to complement the knowledge the learners need to solve that challenge, or they can do it just because they understand that there is a need to fill some gap in their work life, for example. So one thing we're working on as well is on automatic ways of knowing what the society needs, because when you start working on micro-credentials and you think you know what the society needs, then the probability that you will not have candidates, learners, is high. So we do need to dialogue with the external partners to understand what are the needs of the society. And then the gained skills and competencies are stored in a digital competence passport. So we're working in our European alliance so that we have a passport where the learners throughout their life will have their competencies really showcased. Another thing that we believe is very important is to transform not only micro-credentials, but overall, but I'll bring the example of micro-credentials, is to change the way we teach and the way students learn, because that's also a way to promote and develop collaborative work, empathy, and many other skills, critical thinking, and many other skills that we all know are relevant to solve those challenges. So we're working together, bringing up the Centers for Teaching and Learning in the different universities to help professional development of our teachers. This is not so easy, and you all know what I'm talking about, as it seems. And in this particular case, what we do is that we help them, we help the teachers to deliver the challenges in CBL, challenge-based learning. So we work together as Centers for Teaching and Learning, and in Aveiro we started one in 2019, so that we have the faculty being professionally developed. Because the case is that the majority of our professors in our universities were not professionally developed to teach. We all know that, but still there is some resistance to learn, to professionally develop in the way they teach as well. So, within challenge-based learning, we have learners and we have teachers, but teachers having a role that is not at the spotlight. So the idea is that they are facilitators to promote team building, and they will guide the learners, but not be at the center of the stage, which is what we still see quite often nowadays, and we all know we need to change. This is an example of what we do at the University of Aveiro and within this international collaboration. So we have a Center for Teaching and Learning. We have several activities that run throughout whatever we deem is strategic, in this case CBL. So for CBL activities, we produce guidelines and resources, pedagogical training, peer support, peer observation. We promote flexible learning spaces, because we know we need to adapt the spaces for this type of learning. So we're using financing from the Recovery and Resilience Plan to adapt many of the spaces we have for this purpose. We work on communities of practice. Someone was talking about communities of practice. We launched one called Lab, which is an European, actually it's worldwide, whoever wants to join, to help professors around the world share their practices and come together whenever they feel the need not to be alone, because teaching is quite a lonely task compared to research. And then we have financial incentives and awards for teachers to try to promote this type of movement. Let's put it like this. So we have micro-credentials at the University of Aveiro, both at a local and at a global level. Global in the sense that we're doing this in our European alliance. We have around 17,000 students. For those who are not familiar with the university, it's a research-based university, usually more than 90 nationalities on campus. We very much value the experience of our community, namely the international community, which is why we evolved to have an international office that is comprehensive, so we do not have things being taken care in different places and structures, which has been very helpful. And we also work at a local level to help regional partners. I was mentioning the recovery and resilience plan, so we use that financing to try to really boost and transform our institution, because if we think in practical terms, even the academic, how do I call this, the gestão académica, the platforms, are organized in terms of regular calendar. In micro-credentials, this doesn't work, for example, because they can come up at every time of the year, have different lengths, different ECTSs and whatsoever. So we're working on this, what we call Aveiro Social and Education Alliance. We have around more than 200 partners from the region, companies, municipalities, and others. We have a portfolio of more than 100 micro-credentials from different fields, different levels, can be bachelor's levels, master's or so. We also working a lot with the companies, and many are coming to us to co-design the offerings, because that's the most effective way to make sure that this really will fill the gap, the skills gap we were talking about. We're working with the professors with this active learner-centered methodologies. The micro-credentials and the post-graduation, which is a bit longer, so we have different offerings in terms of length as well. I used to upskill and reskill active workers. They are flexible, so we're really experimenting this, because we've just a few years we've started. And we need to adapt to the time that the learners can come to the university, and sometimes it's online. It's mostly hybrid, but the companies need to see the value in allowing and motivating their workers to come back to the university. And actually, we've been seeing some stereotypes on what it means to come back to the university if you're an adult. Most of them think, well, I'm not going to be with regular students and take exams again. But it's a completely new way of delivering education, because otherwise they will not come back. So in most of the cases, the active learning part is really on the challenges and difficulties they have at work. That's what we work with at this type of offering. And we've had more than 1,000 learners so far. Still far from the KPIs we need to achieve, but still, this transformation takes time. It's really, we did a survey 1 year ago, and we realized that most of the Portuguese adults did not go to training anymore, and they don't think they need it. So this really means a cultural change. So it takes time, but we need to go and we need to go forward. Because that's really important for the country. And this was the message. I'm available to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Nuno Comando, Head of Programs, Investments and Communications at Casa do Impacto. The presentation is called Impact Has Doors Open for Everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Nuno, and who already knows Casa do Impacto, just for... Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm going to stay here in order to help with the... Yeah, so basically I'm Nuno Comando. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for inviting us for this forum. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'm the director of the entrepreneurship and the social economy department at Santa Casa da Misericórdia de Lisboa, and I'm the director of Casa do Impacto. Santa Casa, it's a well-known organization here in Lisbon. and in Portugal, actually. And for the past 15 years, they started to invest in social entrepreneurs in order to bring some innovation to the day-to-day activities of Santa Casa. And 6 years ago, they started to work in this project called Casa do Impacto that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes. But we substitute the role of the government in the city hall of Lisbon for a couple of social problems within the city of Lisbon. So we run hospitals, elder care, child cares, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of social care, healthcare, education, volunteering, culture, real estate, and mercies. And we run the social games, so the lotteries. That's where the money for this kind of activities comes from. And we have entrepreneurship and social economy department that the main project is Casa do Impacto, where I work for. So, and we started 6 years ago because in this context of increasing complexity and uncertainty, we think that we need to address the social problems in a different way, or at least help old organizations or mature organizations to have different approaches, and this is what we intend to do within Casa do Impacto. So that's the reason why we created this project. We reconvert an old convent in the city center of Lisbon to give all the tools for social entrepreneurs and impact entrepreneurs in general, actually, to build their new solutions for the new problems that we face every day. And how do we do this? So we need to take risks, experiment, evaluate, and make informed decisions. That's why we try to have a programming for every step of the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial journey. And we need to involve all the agents from our society, so people and also organizations from the public sector, from the private sector, and non-governmental. And we try to implement this way to think on patient and patient capital, because things take time, as you were mentioned before, to change the culture of an organization. And even for Santa Casa, yeah, it's a very mature organization with 500 years old, one of the oldest organizations in the world. So you can imagine what the innovation can bring to this kind of organizations. So welcome to Casa do Impacto. So we are this one-stop shop for impact entrepreneurs to grow, but also for organizations from the public sector, from the private sector, and also non-governmental to build impact. And that's why we believe that we should and we have our programs, but we actually need to engage and involve everyone in the society to use this space and our methodologies in order to test new solutions in this friendly place. Yeah? So we have this open doors for impact to everyone. So our vision is to position Portugal as an European reference for social and environmental impact. This is actually a trend all across Europe and the world to shift this entrepreneurial mission to an impact-driven mission in order to build companies and solutions for the future that actually they are impactful for the society. So this is what we aim to do, because we believe that Portugal actually, because of its size, it is a very unique place to grow new solutions, to test them, and then to scale to different places. And preparing for the future, so involving, training, interconnecting people and projects and organizations on impact issues in every form. 6 years of Casa do Impacto, we celebrated 6 years. A couple of days ago, we launched Casa do Impacto on October 1st of 2018. So we pretty much celebrated our 6th anniversary 2 weeks ago, and we run several programs within our one-stop shop. And we are looking for impact startups. So we have capacity building programs, we have incubation, impact investment, mentorship, workshops, but this thing could not work without the public administration and corporates engage within our activities, because otherwise the gap between them would not be met, and we needed to have this going. So we engage with public administration, also building some capacity building programs for them, also co-innovation and get them participate in our programs for the startups and also for corporates to test new solutions and be engaged with new innovators since the beginning by engage them with our programs. So what we do is to build a strong collaboration between the public and private sector stakeholders with a social innovation process, empowering and engaging citizens, because we have this open door policy for everyone. Actually, we run several of events every year at Casa do Impacto because we believe that everyone should contribute to the first, to get to know the problems, and second, to collaborate in a way to solve them, even in our day-to-day activities, in our private lives and everything. So we have this way to look to a very complex topic by engaging people and invite them over to discuss these problems and solutions, and and we try to do it every time. Also drive co-creation and community long-term trust, focus on impact evaluation. This is very, very difficult, as we mentioned before. I don't think we have time to discuss this, but we do measure our impact and what we do within our programs and help the startups to do the same. And also shift from a technology-centric to a citizen-centric perspective. This is what we think that the entrepreneurship ecosystem should do every time, and we try to help the ecosystem to have this way to think, but it is sometimes difficult with the unicorn thing and the way that we sell and do business right now, but we think that that's not the future of our society in terms of impact. So we have a lot of entities and really, really good partners. I'm just going to focus on the right side of this slide, because those are a couple of startups that started this project with us. And we did this because they have a role in Casa do Impacto, not only being part of Casa do Impacto, but also on the decision process of everything at Casa do Impacto. And they help us to select new startups because they are very already very mature in a startup term. They know the process, they know everything they need to do, and they can help us to build a community that can share knowledge, and they are fundamentally in our process of selecting new startups and on capacity building of the new ecosystem and everything. So we actually engage with a lot of them since the day one to participate actively, not only like a real estate business just providing office space or co-working space, but to engage within a community and to be part of something bigger. And also a lot of nationals and international partnerships. They are very, very important on the day-to-day activities of Casa do Impacto and what we do. They actually are key to implement the solutions that are being developed within our community and to test them within their businesses. And also international ones from LSE, London School of Economics, the first outside of UK I don't recall the name they give to this, but the first place outside of the UK to promote entrepreneurship within their alumni community was actually in Lisbon at Casa do Impacto, and also several more, like the Earthshot Prize. We are one of the nominators for the Earthshot Prize. Is probably the biggest prize in terms of impact, sustainability in the world, and we are one of the nominators. So we have international partnerships to get the things moving also. So we have several programs. I'm just going to very quickly introduce them. Rise for Impact for social problems, triggers for environmental problems, Impact Journey for early stage and ideation, as well as Santa Casa Challenge, one of the oldest ones, and also Plus is an investment fund with a grant-based methodology where we have a budget of 500K per year, where our investment thesis is to invest in early stage startups to help them for the first steps in their business. And basically, we do give them money, but the non-financial support that we give it's actually, in our perspective, more important than the money itself, because we help them to unlock doors and to get the things moving. So we do this not only in Portugal, but also within our community and partners. So last year, we took our students from the ideation program to London, a very mature ecosystem of impact entrepreneurship, and they stay there for 1 week to gathering with investors, with entrepreneurs within this ecosystem, and also with LSE. This year, actually, in the beginning of the year, we went to Angola, to Luanda, for a roadshow of Casa do Impacto, because we more and more have people from Angola attending our capacity building program. So we went there also. And 3 weeks ago, we went to The Hague and Amsterdam in the Netherlands in order to learn within this community, because they are probably the most evolved impact ecosystem in Europe, and The Hague is an amazing case of impact for the city. And we always take our community and our entrepreneurs in order to help them to understand the other ecosystems. We also have several other programs like Match. This is a marketplace for corporates and startups to match. It is like a Tinder for good, yeah. And basically, we did this with Maze and several other big organizations connected with impact. So we are testing this. We are doing a pilot funded by the European Commission in order to test this new platform. And also Targets. Targets is a program that we run internally at Casa do Impacto, connected with the well-being of the impact entrepreneurs, because it is very, very hard to be an impact entrepreneur in those days, every day actually, but now more than ever, because it is difficult to start a business, and the mental health of our entrepreneurs and our community, it's very, very important for us. So we try to create a program giving them for free a couple of tools for them to address these topics and take it seriously. And so we developed Target. It's one of the things that we have inside. Our impact, I'm not going to take more time here, but the success numbers. So right now we have around 75 startups incubated within the incubation program. We have more than 45 national and international partnerships. For the past 6 years, we managed to help more than 550 startups within our programs and incubation. As I said before, we run several events, so we have more than 425 events free for everyone that wants to go to Casa do Impacto and learn about these topics, and also invested more than 3 million euros in impact startups for the past 6 years. The end goal that I mentioned before, it's probably the most challenging one. So the 8 pilots, in 6 years, we only have 8 pilots within Santa Casa. This is something that we want to address very seriously, and we are developing new solutions and programs within the entrepreneurship department in order to raise this number to a different scenario. But this is also the entrepreneurial journey for Casa do Impacto. We look at Casa do Impacto as also internal startup for Santa Casa, and it takes time to establish, to make the connections, and it is difficult, but we're trying to raise this number because we managed to do this within the outside partners of Santa Casa and Casa do Impacto, so corporates and other organizations. We have several success stories, and I'm just picking a couple. So we Skoola is one of the coolest startups in our community. They created a new school of music for music from rap music, electronic music, so not the conventional type of music that you normally have available as a school. And they mix artists with underprivileged kids in order to learn and to have access to this kind of tools. Also, Code for All, they are one of the oldest startups in our community. They actually are one of the anchor members of Casa do Impacto. But I'm putting this slide here and mentioning Code for All because they actually made a protocol with Santa Casa to have their coding programs and reskilling programs for our people in Santa Casa, not only people working at Santa Casa, but also the patients of Santa Casa. So this is what we managed to do also within our program. Wincredible, one of the startups that participated at Triggers program 2 years ago, they are now with their wind turbines in Galp and EDP. And also Café Joyeux, we invested in Café Joyeux through Plus Fund, and we were one of the investors for this cafe that is all the workers from this cafe have some sort of disability, and we are one of the investors. And also, they partnered with each other. That means that we are now creating a community. So GoParity invested in several Code for All, Van, Joya, and more. And also, La Virgule and Sea Shepherd, they collaborated in order to make this kind of products with the nets they collect from the sea. So we are partnering and creating a community, and we are ready to see who's next. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to everyone. But really inspiring work across all 4 speakers. So we are still behind schedule. So I really, also the educator in me is squealing because I don't want to take away Q&A. But we do have to move on to the coffee break, which is happening now. 10 minutes. American 10 minutes, not Portuguese 10 minutes, yeah? So at 4:40, we're going to be back here for the next part, but just another round of applause for these 4 here. Thank you very much. And If you have questions for them, ask them at coffee or later at the reception that's happening. All right? Thank you so much. American 10 minutes. 4:40. All right.
Sim, 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 sim. Good afternoon. Please have a seat. Thank you. Please have a seat. Okay, let's start the last section of FLAD's forum. My name is Ricardo Pereira, and I'm a FLAD education coordinator. And first of all, I want to start by acknowledging the presence of the Secretary of State of Science, Ana Paiva, who will be providing closing remarks on today's FLAD's forum. On behalf of FLAD, we would like to thank you for your presence. It's been, well, personally speaking, it's been a delight to spend this day with the community that I've been part of in the last years, and many more FLAD forums to come, NAFSA presences, and so on. I was asked to moderate this session on creative models of higher education internationalization, and this section is basically divided in two parts. In the first section, we will be hearing from Luís Paiva and the remarkable internationalization strides of Bragança Polytechnic Institute, followed by the announcement of the winners of the FLAD Up Higher Education Awards. I'm going to ask shortly, very shortly, Luís to come on stage, and then I'll ask you to have a seat. And after that, I'll be calling each awardee, and each individual, each PI will very briefly present the winning projects and what's at stake, the collaborations that we want to see flourish in the future. So introducing Luís Paiva, the Vice President of the Bragança Polytechnic Institute, being in charge of the academic affairs, internationalization and pedagogic modernization. Luís has contributed to the transformation of IPB into an international institution with 38% of non-Portuguese students, about 4,000 out of 10,500. Also, just like a common thread in this section, IP Bragança was also one of the awardees of the first cycle of UP awards. At the time, we award the connection between IP Bragança and Nebraska Lincoln on water management issues. I think that led to a double diploma. At least that was the objective. Maybe Luís will cover that in the presentation. Thank you so much, Luís, for joining us.
Okay, so thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. As Ricardo said, so we are here because we have the pleasure to have a FLAD project in the cooperation with the University of Nebraska Lincoln. So it's a pleasure to be here. I will talk about it shortly, but also in more detail about internationalization in my institution. I just arrived from Brazil yesterday, so I'm out of Bragança more than 1 week. I have 2 cats, Kit and Cat, and I'm really missing them. So I think the best thing to say about this meeting is that I'm very, very glad to be here. Okay, I think it deserved the delay of one day to meet my cats, because the meeting was very, very interesting in the morning and in the afternoon. I was hearing all the contributions. I really like those from Paulo Zagallo Melo. He was talking and I was remember the steps in Bragança. So it was very, very similar, the challenge faced and so on. I am vice president of IPB. since 2006, so the year of the practical implementation of Bologna process in Portugal. So it is 18 years contributing for the internationalization of my institution, so I will be talking about it. As Ricardo mentioned, so nowadays, if we sum the degree students with the mobility students, we are close to 4,000 non-Portuguese students out of the total of more than 10,000 students, which is, of course, a really nice result, particularly important to Bragança region. So we talked about decline demography. Of course, in Bragança, we feel that, and we feel that even the demographic inclination, okay? So we have a constant challenge in inland regions to attract students, attract people. And in fact, IPB and most of the polytechnics and universities in inland regions were created with this mission, okay? So we will have this mission in the past, today, and in the future, okay? Whatever we do, we were created to help transforming the inland regions in Portugal, so to have 38% of non-Portuguese students is very important for my region. If we work only with the students in my region, we have been a 2K institution, so an institution of 2,000 and a half students, going through Portuguese students in other regions with our efforts and also with the government policies. We go through around 6,000 and a half students, but it is with internationalization that we go up to more than 10,000 students, and it makes us one of the biggest institutions in inland regions in Portugal. Can we go to my... Okay. Okay, thank you. So I really liked the title of the session, so I stole the title of creative. Nowadays we are trying to make creative students and creative graduates, but how about also creative institutions? So this is the challenge, and of course creative internationalization is a big issue. So my message will be very simple, but what I feel the most important of internationalization. I will start with the Bologna process. I think all we know that. It helps. So I think the best we can say about the Bologna process in terms of internationalization is that one thing was the internationalization in Portuguese higher education institutions before the Bologna process, and another completely different thing is after the Bologna process. So it's not comparable. So the results and the impact of internationalization in institutions. So we succeed, or European Union succeed to create a common understanding, a common rules, a common tools to we cooperate with institutions, to trust in our partners in a very much more very easiest way. And of course we have with us the director of our Portuguese agency, Erasmus agency, and of course this is one of the main tools for us. Again, I think the idea of European Union, it makes use of this program a lot. Erasmus means mobility, and mobility means recognition. So we cannot forget that. So this means that, as we all know, we should or we cannot send a student in Erasmus mobility without being recognized. Not in the diploma supplement, but to replace what the students stop doing in your institution and going to another institution. And this is the most important. I also stole a picture from internet, And this is our institutional position about internationalization, particularly about our diplomas. So in the old times, we have what we call in Portuguese equivalência, okay, the disciplinas, equivalence, not anymore. So, and our position is my graduates, the students I offer my diploma, they should not be in my institution 100% of the time. So this is the goal, okay? So we need to push them away and attracting, of course, students from the partners, because international mobility is of utmost importance for their diploma, okay? So European Union as a goal, it was 20% of the graduates to have international mobility. In IPB, of course, we didn't reach yet, but in IPB, our goal is 100%, okay? But we are far from it, but it's a position of institutional position through internationalization. So this means that I can offer, and I should offer my diploma to students that don't stay 100% time with us. We can even do more. We can, so in that figure, we have the same starting point. We have the same, so that is the enrollment. We have the same ending point, that is the diploma. And in the middle, students could have, and should have different pathways of their academic training. And this is not easy, okay? Because, of course, we all know that academically, most of the time, we think that we have the best program, the best study plans, and if we start comparing to the others, that naturally is different, so we say, oh, we decided in this way. Now we can not recognize what the other partners are doing. So this is a change on positioning, on institutional position. And we can think about it as Erasmus mobility, and let's say it crosses, let's say, 8% of our students, or we can think about, again, in an institutional position through internationalization. So imagine 80%. So the Portuguese 8 to 80, 8 to 80, okay? So imagine if our position is to reach 80% of this. So this is important for the student, but this is also important for us as an institution. If we think about it as 8%, it's a project, let's say like this. If we think about 80%, is my institution. And in fact, what we are doing is that we are not only doing mobility, not only recognition, what we are doing is sharing resources, sharing teachers, sharing facilities, sharing results, okay? So, and this is a tremendous opportunity if we are creative in internationalization. So my teachers are not only the ones I pay. I can use your teachers. Why not? You can use my labs, okay? So what we do in learning and research, we are creating strategic partnerships. And if the money is not enough, we are using the money of our partners and vice versa, okay? So this is the objective. Of course, we need to adapt to that, okay? We need to adapt to that. We need to change our mindset, okay? And of course, looking to the past, we need to think about open mobility. Open mobility means for me, if a student of my institution wants to be in another institution, I let them go, okay? No problem at all. So of course, we need to be flexible on recognition. And two things, okay? That's why we stop thinking about course unit contents and start thinking about learning outcomes and skills, okay? So the contents may be different, okay? But at the end, if it is a civil engineering again, so no problem at all. I have a civil engineering program. You have a civil engineering program. If we compare the study plans, I hope they are not equal, but both produce civil engineering, okay? No problem at all. So we apply that, okay? We trust in you and you trust in me, okay? So we have the tools at European level and also internationally to be confident between us. And also, we stop thinking about hours, contact hours. For example, we have a lot of cooperation with Brazil, and this topic is still, let's say, mandatory, very important, unfortunately, but we are going to change it. So we don't think about contact hours, we think about credits, workload, okay? This is the basic rule of Erasmus program, okay, from the Bologna process. One semester is 30 credits. You cannot accept that, oh, my students are best and I'm best institution, so my semester is 45 credits instead of 30 credits. This is not possible. So the workload in each semester should be the same. So, and it doesn't matter if we have a learning process that it takes more contact hours than, for example, in your institution, and you support more self-working of the student, team working, etc., etc. So at the end, there are only 30 credits per semester. So this is about Bologna, but in fact, this is not about Bologna. It's about overall. If we want, we can use those approaches to, let's say, the creative internationalization strategies of sharing resources and results. That's what we are doing now. We are doing at a European level. We are in a European University Alliance. Fortunately, Portugal is very well positioned on that. Many institutions, Portuguese institutions have European University as alliance. We are doing also outside Erasmus program, outside European Union, particularly in the Erasmus International Credit Mobility Program. We have just 1 or 2 students from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, so we are going through particularly South Mediterranean, Western Balkans, Eastern Partnership, and Central Asia too. So it doesn't make the difference in numbers, but it makes the difference in diversity, okay? So for us, it's very nice. And we are doing also with Brazil. So, of course, we have an amazing opportunity that is the Portuguese language, okay? So we are 10 million, but talking in Portuguese, we are more than 300 million, okay? Thanks to Brazil and to the Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa, okay? So,
first language in Southern Hemisphere.
yes, so my institution have 3 bachelor programs and 8 master programs fully lectured in English to attract international students from other regions, etc. But if we think about students that speak Portuguese, I have more than 40 bachelor programs and around 40 master programs. So I should use this, of course, this opportunity, and of course the main communities of international students in Polytechnic Bragança are from Brazil, from Cape Verde, from São Tomé, from Angola, from Mozambique, from Guinea, etc. So, thinking about creative internationalization, of course, for us is not enough simple mobility. We have many programs in more pronounced cooperation, particularly on double diploma. So we follow that image of this is not, we can have the same beginning, we have the same ending, but the path is different, we go further. So even the beginning can be different, okay? Because it can start in a other partner institution, and we have an agreement and recognition, confidence between partners where we recognize the credits and where we share the training, okay? So that student will not have, we will have 2 diplomas because they will have part of the training in IPB and part of the other training in my partner institution. So we have been doing this for 10 years, since 2014. Well, I will not go in details because I can assure of my experience that the most important are not the administrative and legal details. The most important is the mindset of the partners. We want to do that, okay? We want to do that, okay? So we have at the bachelor level things that are similar in duration, things with other partners that don't have the same duration, no problem at all. We have the same in master level, and in master level, it's a very nice opportunity to cooperate in research, okay? Because we have a common master dissertation, and we always do it in co-supervision, okay? So we join one professor, one researcher from my institution with the other from our partner. And we have also, this is a nice example, Brazil is far away from Bologna process. In fact, Brazil is still where we were in Europe before Bologna process, with graduation programs of 5 years long. For example, in engineering, it takes 5 to have bachelor in engineering in Brazil. And we succeed on double diploma programs, joining those students with our master level, and also what I present before, master to master. But this is a nice example that if we have the right mindset, the difference between the higher education structures degrees, it's not a problem, okay? So we succeed on doing that. And nowadays, we are also working at the PhD level. And it is very nice to see, it's very interesting, because at the PhD, until now, for the bachelor and the master, we might think, oh, how they do that? This is not easy to do. But at the PhD level, no problem at all. We know what is a sandwich or a cotovelo with Brazil, so we are not creating anything. And it is very interesting. Why does it happen? Because generally PhD programs don't have course units. It's 100% research. So we don't have our teachers saying, no, my course unit is very important, okay? This is not possible. Yeah, it is possible, and in fact, PhD at PhD level is very simple to do it. So, coming back to my picture, and my message is, of course, on the creative internationalization and impact of these projects. In fact, we are not only sharing students, okay? We are sharing teachers, okay? And things like instruments that we already heard about this day, like the experience on COIL. My institution don't have online programs, okay? Online degree programs. And if you ask me about it, I don't really like them, because Bragança needs people, okay? But I really like what I can do online. And COIL is a very nice instrument to strategically cooperate with my partners. For example, to share a course unit with a Brazilian partner, that it's very difficult to send my teacher for a full semester to Brazil, okay? Or the opposite. Okay, but we can do in between a COIL project. So joining, for example, a master course unit that is similar in both partners. So we can stop doing each way independently to start having a project where that discipline is the same. They have 2 teachers, one in Brazil and one in Portugal, okay? And we, of course, nowadays it's 4 hours delay difference, but it's possible, okay? So at the end of the day, or in the beginning of the afternoon, it's the beginning of the day in Brazil, and no problem at all. BIPs, of course, it's an amazing idea inside the Erasmus program. So the numbers will raise. So maybe our director will confirm that. At least in Portugal, we have very nice numbers, and now we increase the numbers. So BIP is blended intensive program. So the student doesn't need to go away from my institution. So they keep the course units, but there is one course unit that will be replaced by a BIP. A BIP means online training plus a short-term physical mobility for one partner. So, of course, it's not 100% physical mobility, but is a very nice, clever way to increase the numbers on internationalization. And also, for example, we know that there are some students, even with the grant, that is difficult to go abroad. So this is an opportunity together with the COIL solutions. And of course, staff mobility, co-supervision of students, joint publications, those double diploma at the master level were very nice. I will show the numbers right now. Joint research and funding for research. So in fact, we are not sharing only students, neither only teachers. What we are sharing, in fact, is resources, so facilities and research resources. So this is the numbers for Polytechnic of Bragança. We built an international platform for double diploma with all those partners. So outside European Union, so in those regions that I mentioned in the ICM project, particularly in Brazil. So there are amazing numbers for ourselves. So 24 of our programs have double diploma programs, mostly the master level. More than 1,500 students have been through this platform, mostly at the master level. So this also with staff mobility. So in staff mobility, generally short-term mobilities, but we use this to ask and to promote the contribution of those teachers in course units. And those results are, in fact, very nice. So we have more than 500 indexed publications as a result of the double diploma platform at the master level. So the students produce papers, and these papers, of course, are international cooperation with other institutions and more than 400 communications. And what we say in Portugal, a cereja em cima do bolo, cherry on the cake. I don't know if you have the same expression. So the last result is for me the best one. From those 1,500, more than 100 students, former double diploma students, stay in Bragança with research grants, with FCT PhD grants. So the double diploma, it's not only about students and number of students. It's not only about tuition fees. It's a way to attract talent. And we have, of course, the projects are not all at the same level, but we have, particularly with Brazil, a way to attract talent. And we know, even in Lisboa and Porto, sometimes we have grants available, and it's not easy to attract the best students for those grants, okay? So this is also a very important way to attract talent, to attract students for research. If you visit Bragança, and you are, of course, all invited to do it, you will heard about a very nice way to speak Portuguese, that is the Brazilian Portuguese, okay? Because we have a lot of Brazilian students at our research levels. So, but this is the reason because I'm here, okay? So just a short notice on that. So our idea of my colleague, Elder, was to, okay, why not use this experience to start cooperating with the US? In fact, we don't have still a strong cooperation with the United States. We have some bilateral cooperation between researchers, but in terms of institutional strong cooperation, we still don't have it. So this is a kind of pilot project for us, and thank you, FLAD, to support it. So we apply our experience to develop and to design a double diploma in the environment area at the master level with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So the project is finished. We already agree on it, so we need now to promote the students to come and go on this project. So this change is not difficult. It's not easy, sorry. And there is a guy that you for sure will know, that is Simon Sinek. There is a very nice TED Talk. So it's just you put it in the name, TED Talk, and it appears the talk about Simon Sinek. And I really like this because it goes directly to the point on this kind of projects. Because what the guy said is, well, don't focus on how to do it and what to do it, but why to do it. And this is very, I underlined this for this presentation, because if we start on how to do it, of course there will be, it's not an easy way, okay? Because that open mindset about recognition and sharing the things and to accept flexibility, different plans and so on, it's not easy to change, okay? Our scientific councils decide that. Well, no, it's not easy to say. But if you focus on the why, on the impact we want, and this is what we gain on doing this. That's why we have our research centers full of nice students, okay? Don't forget that. So go defining the strategy to go there. So that's why I really like that golden circle of Simon Sinek's. Always start with why. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. We promise that will be Q&A at some point during this forum. When we first designed the program, that was not the idea, trust us. Right, dinner time perhaps later on. Anyways, again, Luis, this was very inspiring. Now I understand why you really wanted like a free-moving microphone, because you really, take the stage, and fantastic communicator, let me tell you. Moving forward with some exciting things in our program, which is the announcement of the UP 2025 awardees, something that we are very excited to share first time publicly. The 4 selected projects that FLAD has decided to award. Just some key figures on the UP awards program that we started 3 years ago. So we just completed the 3rd cycle. During this 3-year period, we received more than 70 applications, and we have selected a total of 12, to a total amount of 320,000 euros that FLAD awarded to these fantastic initiatives. I should say that we need to thank the jury, right? Of course, Professor Michael Baum, Elsie Henriques from FLAD, but also since the very beginning, Ana Cristina Perdigão, National Agency Erasmus Plus, and Otília Reis, Fulbright, Portugal. Thank you very much for that. A round of applause, please. Voluntary work. All right, so let's get moving. We have, as I said, 4 awardees, one of which cannot be here. She's actually in the States, and we're going to start from that. But as any announcement, we should have some suspense, I guess, some drum bells. Oh, I do have the power here to announce the first one. So the first awardee is Universidade de Lisboa and the Social Sciences Institute with this collaboration, which we'll hear in a little bit, with the George Mason University. I think we have a recorded message from the PI, Raquel Machaqueiro. Let's see. George Washington, not Mason, sorry. Thank you, Michael. Let's see if this works.
Hello. My name is Raquel Machaqueiro, and I would like to start by saying that I'm very sorry for not being able to be there with you celebrating these awards. I would like to thank FLAD for giving me the opportunity to pursue this project and to briefly present it to you through this recording. So the project is titled Politics of Public Memory, Inconvenient History, National Identity, and Social Justice in Portugal and US. Now, taking in consideration that despite significant historical differences, Portugal and the United States share important commonalities in their involvement in the transatlantic slave trade and in slavery's complex history, that both countries' public narratives continue to neglect African cultural influences and historical contributions, that both countries systematically elide the wealth created by the slave trade and obscure how the distribution of that wealth is the foundational cornerstone of present-day socioeconomic inequalities, and that, in both countries, a cultivated public ignorance of the past lies at the very root of different forms of racial discrimination, including structural racism, this project addresses the main domains in which these public narratives and historical erasures are constituted and reproduced: public heritage and public education. So, involving the Institute for Social Sciences and the Museum of Natural History and Science of the University of Lisbon in Portugal, and in the US, the George Washington University, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and the SlaveWorks Project, the public heritage component of this project involves a comparative and interdisciplinary investigation of how public memory narratives of difficult history are being reproduced and challenged in Lisbon and in Washington, D.C. This component of the project will mostly rely on a historic and ethnographic investigation over the important work developed by the Museum of Natural History and the Smithsonian in challenging public history narratives that either erase African heritage or underplay the violence inherent to the history of slavery and colonialism. This project will thus investigate these institutions to explore not just their work in reframing the Portuguese and American public memory, but also the reactions of the general public to such reframings. This research will originate at least one academic article, which, through the comparative analysis of the Museum of Natural History and the Smithsonian's decolonial work, will answer to questions related to Portuguese and American social memories, while providing other researchers and museum curators with two important case studies that can offer crucial insights into the politics of public memory and the numerous challenges of reframing public heritage and public history. On the public education domain, this project will make important contributions to an ongoing project that started last summer in collaboration with Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, and that consists of a special training for Portuguese teachers and museum curators, providing them with the pedagogical skills and resources to teach and talk about slavery and other difficult histories. The outputs of this project will certainly help to improve this training's curriculum. Simultaneously, this project will also be foundational in the development of two undergraduate courses for American and Portuguese students to be taught under FLAD's Study in Portugal network. So one on critical heritage, comparative approaches to Portugal and USA, and the other, a history of invisibilities and erasures, slavery in Portugal and the USA. Importantly, though, this research will also create new opportunities to strengthen and expand a collaborative agenda between MUNAC, the Museum of Natural History, the George Washington University, the SlaveWorks Project, and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, focusing on research, education, and new forms of public engagement, and taking up the challenge of more critically engaging with difficult pasts and their enduring legacies. This agenda includes thus further research on the politics of memory and heritage, teaching, and multiple public outreach initiatives that can reach further across the topography of cultural and higher education institutions in Portugal and in the US, as well as across the various theaters where the SlaveWorks Project already works, namely Mozambique and Brazil. As such, I am very excited, as are my partners at Institute of Social Sciences, the Museum of Natural History, the Smithsonian, and the SlaveWorks Project, to be able to develop this project and contribute to strengthen the collaborations between Portuguese and American institutions. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Raquel. I think Raquel is watching us via our streaming, so Raquel, I know you're in DC at this point, so congratulations once again. Moving forward, and please let's keep it 3 to 5 minute pitch, please. It keeps on stretching. So the second, it's already here. So congratulations to the University of Coimbra for this new partnership with Parte Institute. I call up to the pulpit Susana, the program's PI. Congratulations, Susana.
Good afternoon. I will be brief. I have a paper to read, so a small presentation. And now for something completely different. So I'm presenting A Deriva, Architecture, Design and Arts Festival, which is a partnership between the Department of Architecture of the University of Coimbra and Pratt Institute in New York, that is coordinated by me, Susana Lobo, and by Pedro Martins Carvalho, that is on his way in a taxi here, but he is late, but also with the help of Maria José Soares, who is the director of the Abroad Relations of Pratt Institute. This project brings together a diverse team. Sorry, I'm speaking without moving the slides. So, a diverse team of faculty from both schools in an interdisciplinary, action-based approach to the territory, its population, traditions, crafts, and culture. It differs from similar events or festivals, architecture festivals, by establishing a core relationship with education and teaching, fostering the exchange of knowledge and know-how across academia and local communities in the creation of site-specific installations that explore different forms of expression and participation. Mondego River is the thread of this proposed derive, with the first edition taking place upstream in Penacova, with the support of the City Council of Penacova, the intermunicipal community of the region of Coimbra, and the collaboration of the Ano Zero Coimbra Contemporary Art Biennale. I thank these three partners for collaborating with us in this project. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank FLAD for the distinction of being one of the projects selected for this UP funding program. In particular, at a moment that the University of Coimbra is discussing the creation of a faculty of architecture and arts. So this is very important for us in the Department of Architecture. We believe that the Aderiva Festival and the partnership with the Pratt Institute will be relevant contributions moving forward in the construction of this idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Susana. Great stuff about to happen in Penacova. That's exciting. So let's move on to another awardee. It's Isqueté. Professor Miguel Salles Dias will tell us all about it. Thank you, Miguel, and congratulations.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you. Let me thank first FLAD and the jury for this distinction. So, my name is Miguel Dias. I'm a full professor at Isqueté, and I'm presenting here a joint project with Bridgewater State University. And you might wonder, called the Atlantic Crossing. So this IA image tries to get a snapshot of what we plan. You might wonder why Bridgewater State University and Isqueté? Well, looking at the Massachusetts state, it turns out that we have around 300,000 Portuguese descendant citizens and 70,000 Cape Verdean descendant citizens. So you might understand a bit why the rationale, why we are here. So this is about transatlantic collaboration in teaching and learning and research. So some of the objectives. First, think of double degree diplomas. This program will run next year, so we plan to deliver concepts on joint postgraduate and graduate programs. Then foster research in these topics, not exclusively, but focus in cybersecurity, AI, language technology, innovation in business. Now, Bridgewater, for several years, has developed an interesting concept of undergraduate research. This is new in the Portuguese university. So we are planning to introduce this concept at Isqueté, and then we'll see how it goes. Of course, we will also engage faculty and students in exchange across the next year. So I would like to present beside me my co-pilot, co-PI and co-pilot, Professor Anna Ray Lee. Actually, the project will kick off this week. So I have a meeting here in Lisbon with Anna Ray Lee already. She's here, by the way. She's an associate professor of cybercriminology and cybersecurity. So she's really engaged in our collaboration because it turns out that we have a 3-year diploma in cybersecurity ending this year, whereas Bridgewater is starting a degree just now. So there is a big complementarity here. Now, some key activities that we are planning. We will develop collaborative online international learning. We will have a monthly faculty debate, so every month. We will also share classes. We will have remote classes of different courses where faculty and students from Bridgewater will assist our classes and vice versa. We will have short-term visits, so we will have a delegation, a high-level delegation of Bridgewater, of all the deans of Bridgewater University visiting Isqueté in January. Now in June, faculty and students of Isqueté will go to Bridgewater. So Bridgewater is actually very compatible with Isqueté. I might say it's a 11,000 student faculty university, 300 faculty, a bit like Isqueté. We are around 300 faculty and 14,000 students. So you see, and actually our areas are very much compatible. And then we will have already some joint projects. So we started already joint undergraduate research project. I will be speaking a little bit about this one after. And as I said, Bridgewater has already in operation a program of undergraduate research. They host a yearly symposium around April, and we are going to participate. Our students are going to participate. And additionally, we are going to create our own undergraduate research symposium, multi-school at Isqueté. So to learn from this interesting experience. One of the ongoing projects. Anybody here uses ChatGPT? So with this project, we will put ChatGPT understanding the Cape Verdean language, the Creole language, to generate Creole language of Cape Verde, to translate to Portuguese and to English. This is novel, this is non-existing, it's really, we are in the edge of research here. But this is undergraduate research, okay? It's not master level, not PhD level. Then we also are starting, and we will have more of that, joint programs on cybersecurity. We are looking at the range. Cyber Range is an infrastructure of Bridgewater, very advanced, where they are able to simulate all these type of scenarios of cyber attacks and defenses. And Isqueté students and faculty will be using these facilities as well. So, impact and future prospects. We expect long-term outcomes. So to create this concept of undergraduate research in a sustainable way. So I think this is a novel concept in the Portuguese university. We want to expand double degree programs and think of broader international academic networks. This is a snapshot of our campus. And I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Miguel. It's a very comprehensive cooperation strategy. I'm sure the jury was impressed about that as well. Susanna, in the meantime, you said, if you don't mind, We'll see about the Q&A one step at a time. Let's see if it's going to be this time. Moving forward, the fourth awardee, we want to congratulate the University of Porto and its CBO lab. Oh, okay. And CBO lab, please, Professor Paulo Alves, can you come up to the stage to present the project? Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure being here in FLAD because, in fact, my internationalization after my graduation was funded by FLAD, and I'm very even with emotion seeing Paulo Zagalmel that was here. That is here, and that time was supporting the research network that I was developing with the University of Montana. So this time, we are working in a new partnership with Cornell University, aiming for biodiversity, landscape planning, sustainable use of natural resources and agroecology. This is in fact ongoing work because we have been already working with the University of Montana University of Cornell University for several years. This is just a picture from this year where we have students visiting us at the Faculty of Science. We over already this probably 12 years of cooperation. We had already PhD students going to Cornell, but also undergraduate students from Cornell, from the College of Agriculture and Life Science coming to 2 months to the Faculty of Science and to CBU, to Research Center and Biodiversity on the scope of Global Fellows Program. Also, Professor Jeremy, that is my partner, he's there on this figure, is coming almost every year, and he stayed already with us in Metla, and I've also been visiting him during the last years. So this project will and this award will help us to scale up the cooperation, because we, in some way, we will be able to almost double the number of students and researchers during this mobility, namely for promoting the research in biodiversity, landscape planning, and sustainable use of natural science, natural resources, and agriculture, but also the training, the students' training and mobility, advanced training, but mainly strengthen the cooperation between Cornell University, the museums of vertebrates, and the biological station of Mertla. That is a brand new facilities that we are just establishing in Mertla. This is one of the courses that we are already doing in museums techniques in the 21st century in cooperation with Cornell. This is the team that we already have been, let's say there are some of these persons have been already doing the mobility, others will start now. But what I really would like to highlight here is that this award will help us to bring persons, people, students, researchers, including in sabbatical programs of this tiny and beautiful village that is Mertla, that is in the middle of a natural park, suffering already desertification with the climate change, and we will bring people to help, just to contribute for the understanding of the impact of the climate change in this part of Portugal and also of Europe on this semi-arid area in the Mediterranean ecosystem. So the biological station is being made, not reconstructing just on the margins of the river of Guadiana River, just in front of this village. Yeah, and I believe the people will like to stay there with this fantastic view to this village. And thank you so much for this award.
Okay, I'm going risky here, but we have time for one question, maybe two questions if very short. No, seriously, let's open up for questions. Maybe some of you are curious about what you've heard previously by IP Bragança or the awardees of FLAD Up Ensino Superior. The way I put it, I kind of like put you on the spot. I'm sorry. Well, so in that case, maybe I can ask a question, like very brief answer, because from the policy side of things, from FLAD, we're always trying to understand what is the root, right? Where is there most likely the beginning, the spark of something that leads to interesting collaborative projects like what we've just heard from you. Could you please share, like, what was your initial contact with the respective institution in the States that you spoke about? I know for Bragança, this may not make so much sense, but perhaps, Luigi, if you know the spark with Nebraska, maybe you can share that. Susanna, do you remember with Pratt, when was the very beginning of things? I don't know. Well,
And the vice rector.
I did not know that was the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the first. I was the sub-director of the Department of Architecture at the time, so I went in representation. And but then for a while we didn't hear from Pratt, and it was Pedro Martins Carvalho, my colleague, that arrived already.
He arrived.
So hello,
He
Pedro.
made it. Olá, Pedro.
Yeah. He was quite interested in exploring this collaboration with Pratt, so he was a bit insistent with Maria José also, and I think it was his dialogue, continuing dialogue with them, that brought them back, and we started from there. So the idea was to create here a partnership based in architecture design. We have a design and multimedia course also in the Department of Architecture with informatics. And they have arts, we don't have arts. So there was this crossing of disciplinary areas that was interesting. And now they're coming next in 2 weeks' time, they're coming to Penacova. We have a first meeting there. We'll start from there. So the idea was just get people together and think about the territory and build things with the people, local communities, and also from their knowledge, learn from the know-how of those people. So that's the base of this collaboration.
Very interesting, thank you. A bit of serendipity there, amazing.
Thanks. It is interesting, this question, because as I was telling you, this collaboration with Cornell start with kind of bottom-up, but in fact it started in Montana because, and it was already, as I told you, it was funded by FLAD because I was there in Missoula, a tiny city in the Montana state, and my colleague, Professor Jeremy, just visited me. He's British and he was in New York, but then he suddenly moved to Cornell, and then I was, going to Montana, but I was visiting him and starting this visit, and he was also visiting us, and we just engaged. We were engaged with sharing students. That I believe this is the key point, because the students, namely graduate students, PhD students, they are really a great bridge because they almost force us during 4 years, because they go there, they stay there, they stayed 6 months in Cornell, and of course we are forced to go there to visit, but also my colleague is forced to be here. So and building up on this, we really thought that now we need to go further, and this is what we would like to do. And one thing that I really would like to highlight here is now the cooperation is nothing. I am a biologist working mainly on evolution and conservation biology. So I am bringing students in enology, and landscape architecture, because we are already building up on where we started with. And this is what, in some way, I was caught in the trap, because in the beginning I was looking for this internationalization, I would say, by my own, because I am a researcher, but now I really like it. I was attached. I think I was I don't know, I have the virus of the internationalization, which I think is great because we really have the feeling that we are doing a thing that is going up to above our research. And this is really rewarding. It's why I really appreciate and thank you so much for helping us to building this cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Luis?
Well, on our side, it was a contact between two researchers. My colleague in Bragança knows a professor in University of Nebraska through the regular conference and so on. So this was an opportunity, of course, to go further. So what I would like to underline is a nice example where we can have a multiplier effect, okay? So it's not only a bilateral cooperation between two researchers, but what FLAD is doing is helping to go at an institutional level and more people involved. And I think you are going, of course, in the right way on supporting this idea and ensuring that there are also an impact at a higher level.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Well, before I start, I would like to thank the presence of our Secretary of State of Research. We have here Professor Ana Paiva. Thank you. Bridgewater was visiting some in Portugal, some universities, and FLAD was organizing, of course, that tour. And I was invited by our Vice Rector in Institute for International Relations, Professor Maria das Dores, that she's sitting here, to participate in this meeting where the president of this university, which is our equivalent to the rector, was with various deans, and it was a very high level. And I mean, he made this message. We have a big Portuguese descendant community. I want to do some, activity, teaching, learning, research with Portugal. We need to start some ideas. And then, of course, we introduced ourselves, and I realized that, this university has really some very nice compatible aspects. For example, this is the largest university that teaches professors at high school in Massachusetts, has various degrees that are quite similar to ours. They are looking into AI and cybersecurity as much as we are at the moment. Because in fact, we started a brand new School of Applied Digital Technology, very recent. We are in third year, and it turns out that we really have various similarities. So after that, it got really my interest. And then I had the opportunity to go to NAFSA this June, and after that to Bridgewater. And I was really very, very well welcomed. We hear Portuguese in that university, so we go along, and a lot of staff, faculty, students they speak Portuguese. The prior director, or the prior rector, let's say, of the university was a Cabo Verdean professor in linguistics. So you see, there was already a lot of commonalities. So we wrote together this project, and it turns out that we were successful. So we are really enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
Let me say that we must emphasize that FLAD. Don't forget that FLAD has brought Bridgewater University to visit us, so this should be reinforced, and we thank you for that. Yeah.
Our work is from the university.
Very good. And with that, we close the session. Once again, congratulations to everyone. Let's just take a group photo of this year's awardees and the jury, please, maybe outside or wherever it makes sense. We need to continue with our program. Group photo, please. after, I don't know if they have to leave or any of them. Very good. Okay. Otherwise, you don't get the money, sure. Okay, continuing. I have the pleasure to introduce Denise Matos, coordinator for internationalization of the national agency Erasmus+. And by the way, thank you so much for the flexibility. We were supposed to participate in the morning. We kept on stretching, but you know, best for last, I guess. Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, I will try. While we were preparing the presentation, I asked my colleagues, who wants to do this presentation? And they sent me a mandate, told me that it should be you. So I think this is on purpose because it should be on lunchtime and now almost on dinner time. So, as Ricardo told, my name is Denise Matos. I'm the Internationalization Coordinator at the National Agency Erasmus+. And I have the pleasure to be here today with you to present our roadmap to NAFSA 2025. Let me tell you that this is a work divided between the National Agency, the Luso-American Foundation, and the Fulbright Commission. And my presentation will be very short, but I will do a resume of the context of the USA-Portugal campus, the vision and the goals. I did the presentation in Portuguese because the main goal of this presentation will be to share this information with the higher education institutions that are here present, but I will speak in English as the official language of the meeting. Then I will briefly explain the activity that we have been developing during the past 3 years and the action plan for the 4th year that are going to arrive very soon, and with the chronogram of all the activities that we are planning to develop during the next months. So as I told you before, this is a work consortium that have been developing between the National Agency, the Luso-American Foundation and the Fulbright Commission, because at the end the goals are getting together. As the Luso-American Foundation with the SIP, the Study in Portugal Network, has the goal of attracting students to come to study in Portugal. Also the work that have been developing by the Fulbright Commission, bringing all the students, faculty members and researchers to exchange between Portugal and the United States, and the National Agency, because recently in 2021 we received the competency of also coordinating internationalization of education. So together the 3 institutions thought that can develop something bigger, and with this idea of constructing something together and motivated by the similar goals, we developed USA Portugal Campus, that it is an initiative that started in January 2022 officially, but it was something that have been thought before in 2021. In 2021, the NAFSA was online. It wasn't face-to-face, but already with the slogan Study and Research in Portugal. And on 2022, on the 7th of January, officially, we did the launch of this consortium between the 3 institutions. And the idea is to identify, capacitate, and put together the institutions to have a sense of belonging, of disseminate to Portugal and the higher education of Portugal abroad. And I have here the several goals that we have, like the capacitation, the general capacitation of the higher education institutions, the specific capacitation in this case to prepare the higher education institutions to the market of the United States, and to compare what we have been done and what the other countries are developing together. So the idea is trying to push harder for our institutions and to disseminate the name of Portugal in the higher education abroad, namely in the United States. Mm-hmm. So those are the main objectives, and the idea is also to develop the branding of study and research in Portugal as our flag. So the organization comprises all the 3 institutions, and we have a collaborative network with several institutions in Portugal: JES, the Direção-Geral do Ensino Superior, the General Direction of Higher Education in Portugal, the Foundation for Science and Technology, the 3 organizations that coordinate universities, the polytechnic universities and the private universities, namely CRUP, CSISP and APESP. Turismo de Portugal, so the tourism of Portugal also, it's a very strong branding for us to disseminate the country. ICEP, the International the Commerce and Management Agency of Portugal, and Instituto Camões, Instituto da Cooperação e da Língua, that is the institute that works together with our embassies all over the world and disseminate the language and the culture of Portugal. And together, our 3 with these partnerships, we create USA Portugal campus that have several goals, but they are organizing specifically with these 4 missions: Portugal, USA Higher Education with webinars and basic training series that we have available in the website that I invite all of you to go after this session. We also have the annual forum. We are here celebrating the 2nd forum. There's also some immersive training that we try to develop with our institutions to prepare them to the internationalization, and the development of the study and research in Portugal. In this case, we do it all over the world, but in this case specifically at NAFSA. Just to bring you the image of the first FLAD Forum that happens 2 years ago in 2022, and then repeated today in 2024. Some initiatives that we still have online, if you want to go to our website, they are still available and probably can be useful for you if you want to listening again some webinars. We developed one with a focus on attracting US students to Portugal, institutional framework and support, trends and insights related to international education in the world, trends and insights to international education in the US, and an overview of US higher education system. So those are some tools that we still have available online, and you can use it to remind some information. About the study and research in Portugal branding, together with our higher education institutions, we started to present ourselves in NAFSA for the first time physically in 2022. And this is just to share with you some images that we collect from our Portuguese pavilion that are now getting known from the other countries. It is very common because we are with the same pavilion, not only in NAFSA, but also in AIE, the European Association for International Education in Europe. So people from other countries and from partners from other countries usually always say that our Portuguese pavilion is very beautiful. It's almost constructed based on cork, it is something that is produced in Portugal, and burel fabric that we use also to present some of our products from Portugal. A few more pictures from our identity. And to show with you that on 2022, we had the pleasure of receiving 16 higher education institutions collaborating with us. So it's a common space where the universities have a table and can stay during the entire day. In the beginning, in the entire day, but then the number of institutions get coming more than the one that we expect. So nowadays we have to divide the day in two. Part of the institutions have a table in the morning, and the other part of the institutions divide the table in the afternoon. So in 2023 we received 25 institutions representing Portugal in NAFSA. And this 2023, 22 sorry, there's a mistake here. Oh, can I go back? How can I go back? 25 institutions, and this was this year, I'm sorry, it's not 23, but 24. We had 22 institutions at NAFSA 2024. Also, during the period that we are abroad in the United States, there's always some other activities that are developing under this USA-Portugal campus. Namely, on 2022 in San Francisco, we visit 3 universities, Stanford, California, Berkeley, and Santa Clara University. And there was a reception at the Consulate of Portugal in San Francisco. Usually we always try to do something with the Portuguese community that lives in each city. On 2023 in Washington, we developed the Fulbright Portugal-USA Dialogues with the support of USA Study Abroad. And we visit also American University, Marymount University, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and George Mason University. And there's always a reception, as I said before. And in New Orleans, 2024, there's again a Fulbright Portugal-USA Dialogues in Tulane University, and we visit Loyola University that did an open day during the time of NAFSA. Speaking a little about NAFSA, that it's the end of this roadmap. NAFSA was born, the foundation was in 1948, and it's the Association of International Educations that annually organize an exhibition and a conference. And this year, the focus will be purpose, place, and partnership. It will be in San Diego, and the dates will be from 27 to 30 of May. Again, we invite all the higher education institutions to join us together in this moment. Some images to attract the institutions. This is the floor plan of our Portuguese pavilion. So the idea is to have a table for each higher education institutions that can schedule the meetings with the partners and stay to have connections. We have available in this space 24 spaces, so we can receive 24 registrations from higher education institutions in Portugal. And each institution will have a table and 3 chairs to receive their partners. For the roadmap of 2025, we are going to open a call between the 18th of November and the 2nd of December. So all the universities, polytechnic universities and private universities that are interested in joining us, they must apply during this period. We'll send this presentation to all the contacts we have. And this year we are trying to develop something to capacitate our higher education institutions, help them also to be prepared for the event. We are going to offer a session, a workshop, where we are going to present how can we manage with the platform to schedule the meetings, how can they have strategic meetings to prepare them for the period that they are going to stay in the United States. And also in April, we are going to have a capacitation program also developed by Fulbright Commission with the USA Study Abroad workshop. There will be 2 speakers that are still not, the names are not still available. The Fulbright Commission are in contacts. And we are going to invite you, all of you, to participate in these sessions. And we are also planning to have again, some meetings during the period that the team are in mission in the United States. It's not confirmed yet, but probably we are going to have in the Monday before the fair starts, we are going to have some activities with the US universities to be confirmed soon. And from my side, I just leave you with the contacts from the 3 partners that are together working in this USA-Portugal campus.
Thank you so much, Denise. I'm not sure if there are any questions. I don't think so. Moving on. Michael, I believe you would like to address the audience. about the. I know you'll be super brief. It's a one slide only.
Yes.
Before we close the forum.
Thank goodness. Yeah. I think everybody will thank me that. Exactly. I think everyone will thank me that there's just one slide up here. As you may know, this year is kind of we had some hesitation about, okay, so when do we really celebrate the 10th anniversary of the SIPN project? Because it was this month in 2014 that we signed the MOU in a formal ceremony here with the presence of the Prime Minister at the time and the 4 university partners. It's legitimate that we can celebrate this month as the 10th anniversary. Our first students, however, came in the summer program of 2015. So I guess you could say we're going to be celebrating this whole year. Various moments are legitimate moments to celebrate. If you can see, I know a lot of this might be textually a little small, especially to see there from the back. But let me just kind of give you the quick Reader's Digest version. I came here obviously from North American academia. I was a professor of political science at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, one of those schools that actually cares about Portugal and has a big Portuguese-speaking community in the region. And for, forever, I don't know, I think 13 years, I was bringing small groups of US students to Portugal with a partnership that I had at ISEG, University of Lisbon, to learn about the European Union and EU integration. And out of the blue, don't ask me how, the U.S. Embassy, kind of contacted me to come and work here at FLAD, and I was very flattered about that. And, in the interregnum, I had created this other project, which was a bit more ambitious, with Isquete. This was also, in some ways, the vision of Maria de Lourdes Rodrigues, who was the president of FLAD at the time, and she gave us a very timely support to create a program called UMass in Lisbon, which was based at Isquete. Anyways, and long story short, when I came to FLAD, my old university I don't think really knew what to do with the program in some ways, and they ended up giving it. In fact, is Carlos here? Yeah. Fortunately, it didn't die. It found another home with API. In fact, there's a couple different provider programs here besides SIPN. So API is one of them. I think also our friends from ICEP, are they still? Yeah, Cynthia and Marina are here. Another US-based program provider. And CIE, yeah, where? Yes, CIE is here too. Thank you. So basically, I think CIE was the only program provider that had already been operating in Portugal, as far as I'm aware, before we created UMass in Lisbon. That's how I met Ricardo, actually. I brought him on board to help me get the UMass in Lisbon project going. Anyways, landed at FLAD, and we decided that FLAD kind of had the mission, and we thought we could kind of build a better mousetrap, I guess you could say. And so, today, Joel and others talked about, Paulo too, the power of consortium. And I was really convinced that one of the really unique things about Lisbon was that you had these 4 universities who were physically very close to one another, all of whom were teaching lots of courses in English. And I knew from my experience in the States that, we would have some students who would be looking for the Spanish-style full immersion type program, but it would never be very large. And that what we really needed was to maximize the kind of, course choices we had in English. And so that's what really sort of created the motor for the consortium idea. Luckily, when I presented it to the 4 universities, they all, said, yeah, that's an interesting idea. And so that's how SIPN was kind of born. Fortunately, it's not a one-man show because, and I already thanked my staff and colleagues here who helped to make it a reality. But it's really, it's been an organic thing. We do it as a labor of love. And it's become, if I may be so bold as to say, it's kind of, I think, a flagship program at FLAD now. As Paula said, it's lasted beyond me. I left in 2019, did other things. Came back to FLAD in 2021, and it was still here and still functioning. One of the things I'll just point out on the graphics, so, the growth in the numbers of US students coming to Portugal has been actually, Portugal's the fastest growing destination for US study abroad in Europe over that 10-year period from 2008 to 2018, pre-pandemic. And in white, you can see the role that SIPN played in that. There were some years where the SIPN project was about 40% of all the US students in Portugal. We'll see. I think the data from Open Doors when it comes out is going to show, as we were seeing today, a sharp rebound. And I suspect when we finally see the 20, 23, 24 numbers, I think it's going to be up closer to, probably 16, 17 or more hundred students. Total, SIPN has brought more than 1,700 students to Portugal, just the SIPN program. And CIE has probably similar numbers, and API as well, and USAC and ISAP and others are now, EF. I mean, there's the number of US-based study abroad program providers who now have Portugal on their radar. That's a new thing, right? And it kind of goes hand in hand with the growth of Portugal as a tourist destination in the United States. You no longer, I knew things had changed when I no longer had to explain to my parents' friends where Portugal was. That's when I knew, wow, things have changed. They all were telling me, oh yeah, we're going there next summer, and my friends have told me all about it. Anyways, one of the other goals of the SIPN project was, obviously one of the unique things about the SIPN project for FLAD is that it doesn't draw any resources from our endowment, and this was. It was kind of a radical thing to do here at FLAD. FLAD is essentially a grant-making organization. We give money to people, right, who have neat ideas and need some helping hands to make it happen. And that's what FLAD always did. The SIPN project was a whole nother bird, where we had a revenue side and we had to manage all of that. And that's been and continues to be a challenge here at FLAD because it means, lots of facturas, lots of things to keep track of, and it can sometimes be a pain. But one of the other, so besides being self-financed, right, students do pay to participate in these programs. The other thing was that we wanted to benefit our Portuguese university partners, and I'm happy to say that I asked the staff to add it all up for me. And, of course, with a couple years where there was no activity, but over the last 10 years, we've averaged about 60,000 a year in propinas paid to the Portuguese university partners. So about 600,000 total. And I think that's an important thing. We've also had important partnerships with other institutional partners like the Gilman Foundation, which is really helping us to diversify the kinds of students that we receive. And we've added folks like Genesis who have, a real expertise, which I think also is creating, sort of a niche sort of experience that we're trying to foster. The other thing I'll say is that, as organizations grow, sometimes you have to rethink what you do. And I really hand it to my staff. When we were down for the pandemic, it was a nice moment to be able to have time to think about, what it is we're doing. And, in 2018, more than half of our students were coming on these short-term programs, these customized programs, that Cheryl actually said. And of course, they're the trend, shorter and shorter times abroad. But we kind of realized that, even though we were getting a lot of students to those programs, there wasn't a heck of a lot of interaction with our Portuguese universities. They were just, kind of coming through Portugal for a couple weeks. And so the staff was really pushing back against me on this, and I credit them, for really being the leaders on this, saying, look, why are we doing this, And so one of the things that has changed is that we've said, okay, we're really going to focus on the semester and summer students. And that's been, a renewed focus for us. It's also something that I think leads to a more immersive and kind of interactive experience with Portugal. I know we're spitting into the wind on what the trends are in U.S. study abroad, but we still feel like, okay, but we're not going to just necessarily go with the trends. We're going to this is going to be what we do. The other thing I'll say, one of the questions, I know there's a lot of schools here from around Portugal, and we've sometimes been chastised, questioned, why are you only working with schools in Lisbon? And and the quick answer was that it's such a big amount of work just to work with 4 universities. We always kind of had this fear of oh my God, we don't have the space and the time and the staff to franchise, and go all over Portugal. But one of the things that I'm cautiously optimistic about. I don't want to say too much because, things are still a bit fuzzy here at FLAD. Hopefully it will be more firmed up in the next couple of weeks with government announcements and such. But once we're firmed up, I'd like to think that there's going to be a good possibility that we will be expanding the SIPN project to up north. That's as much as I want to say. We already are going to be working this coming summer, with the University of Porto hosting a BYU program that's moving from Lisbon up to Porto. Also, we've already been working with Johns Hopkins for a program in Coimbra, and now also we're opening up in Coimbra with UC Berkeley, another program. So let's just say we do have our designs on possibly finding sustainable ways for us to expand beyond Lisbon. Anyways, the SIPN is 10 years, and I think that's a good enough reason to have a drink. And I suspect after a long day, oh yes, thank you for, Ricardo just reminded me, the Secretary of State. Oh my God, how could I forget? So before we start drinking, let me just say that I'm really thankful that the Secretary of State, Ana Paiva, could take time out of her busy day to be here. We're very, very thankful for all of the governmental and institutional partners that we have. FCT, for another one that we are now collaborating with. And so I know she already told me, she said, I have very little to say, but we're very thankful that you're here to say it. And then after Anna addresses all of you, I don't think you want to hear from anybody else, and we'll make our way up. I believe it's going to be upstairs. Yep. Okay. And we'll have a few drinks. Elsa is telling me no. That's not true. It's not upstairs. He's telling me yes. You're telling me no. Ah, okay. I'm shutting up. Don't worry. Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I'm the person that is preventing you from getting a drink. So can you imagine? It's terrible, right? So I'll be quick. Otherwise, you're going to, I don't know. So Professor Elsa Henriques, member of the FLAD Executive Board, dear Professor Michael Baum, Executive Council member of FLAD, dear reitores, vice-reitores, other representatives of higher education institutions and organizations, dear awardees. My God, the projects were great. I was impressed. Congratulations, this is great. Dear participants, I'm delighted to be here today. In this forum about Portugal and USA higher education. And I can tell you, every time I come here, and I've been here 3 times in the last few months. Yeah? And this is always new, something good, something brilliant. I'm so impressed. And so 50 years, I remember the first time I was here like a month ago or something. I was talking about the Carnation Revolution, and indeed 50 years after our Carnation Revolution, the higher education and science in Portugal is more than ever international, and rightly so. As the name of this event says, internationalization is in fact an imperative. In fact, I just learned it's a virus, right? And over the last decades, FLAD has been a close ally in fulfilling this important mission. I think FLAD, we should give a strong applause to FLAD in this. But it's more than that. Portugal is home of several world-class higher education and research institutions. Institutions that are becoming more and more global. And since the creation of the International Student Statute in 2014, the number of foreign students in the country has continuously increased. In 2013, that number represented about 8% of the total community of higher education. 10 years later, in 2023, that percentage has doubled, reaching 17% of the total number of students in higher education. Portugal is within the European average, which is about 18.9%. So it's like such a huge increase, such a huge increase. Further, if we consider PhD students, that is those that are starting really on the research path, that number accounts for 34% of total students. Can you imagine? We are really international. So there are several reasons. One has already been mentioned by Luís Pais. The Bologna process had a huge impact. But it's more than that. It's the number of classes taught in English, the quality of our institutions, and also living in Portugal and the living cost compared with other higher education destinations. But the fact that Portugal is one of the safest countries to live, our climate, and even the proximity to the sea for research are factors that weigh in our favor. But the work that all of you are doing at your institutions, establishing these international partnerships, reaching beyond traditional markets such as Brazil and African Portuguese-speaking countries, and attracting nationals from places such as North America and USA, are what makes the difference. That's what makes the difference. That work is much easier with the support of FLAD. Thank you. In the last 10 years, the Study in Portugal network, SIPMET, has been a game changer. We know, we've just heard from it. During that time, the program brought over 1,700 or 1,700 American students to Portugal, most of which might never have considered our country as a destination for study without your support. And the USA Portugal campus that we've just heard, a partnership between FLAD, Fulbright, and Erasmus Plus agency was and is instrumental in promoting greater knowledge of the educational system in both sides of the Atlantic, and supporting the participation of Portuguese higher education institutions in this Association of International Educators, the NAFSA. So we are just seeing an exciting collaborative projects between Portuguese and American institutions that will be funded also by the Up Ensino Superior call, and the results were amazing. Congratulations. Now, but let's not forget that a large part of internationalization is done through science. Science is inherently international, it's global. We cannot have science closed in one room. It is global. And since the creation of FLAD, its support has been essential for fostering also in science through grants that allow Portuguese and American scholars to make their way across the Atlantic, advancing scientific research, pedagogical practices, and other innovative projects. FLAD is also a partner of FCT, the Portuguese Science Foundation, fostering collaboration between the two countries, a partnership that has led to the Portugal Berkeley that has already been mentioned here, program presented here. So, and we will, in that program, we'll take the advantage of the Pinto Fiallan Fund to promote collaborative research via co-supervision. This is actually a unique funding opportunity in the US higher education landscape focused on Portugal, Portuguese and Portuguese descent students. But the work you've been doing here today, and I'm very sorry I wasn't here in the morning, because I just looked at the program and I thought, oh, this must have been amazing. It was really good program. The work that you've been doing here today is just to counter the decreasing demographics, fund our institutions, or even attract talent. And the most important part of all the work is to build bridges, to open hearts and minds, and to advance collaboration and share experiences like it was mentioned here as well by Luís Pais. Because when you move, when you have these bridges, when you live abroad, when you experience a different culture, understand it, learn from it, and that is so important, to have an exchange. After all, these are exchange programs in which students and researchers from Portugal gain from this experience in the US, and students coming and gain the experience the other way. And I can tell you, I've lived abroad, short terms in the US and in the UK for longer. And myself, I can tell you that there's nothing that gives a researcher a different perspective of your own home when you live abroad. So the world needs people who look at it through different lenses and who are willing to truly understand others from the other's point of view. And that is the work here presented and is essential to accomplish that goal. We're counting on you to support this internalization, to put the virus in, you're all going to be infected by it, to support the students to experience Portugal in full. And please let them know, the students that are coming here, that if they want to settle in Portugal, the Portuguese government has several programs to attract talent, and we want talent. So we're counting on you as a community to evolve these connections with our US higher education counterparts, because all of you are essential to that strategy. Without you, we wouldn't be able to build that bridge. Thank you.
Maybe a group photo before we go on? Is that one last thing we can do? And I think we could do at least first the winners and then maybe a big group photo with the Secretary of State. Before we go. I won't do it.